rejected at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything's possible!
Good evening, guys, and welcome to another edition of Kicking It with Kruse. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, and hopefully you guys are having a great evening. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, there's a lot in terms of in the NFL world, the baseball world, the basketball world, you name it. Of course, it's a busy time of year with pretty much a lot of the sports going on specifically. Before we get started, let's obviously just kind of get quickly to the order of business. Make sure to follow, like, comment, subscribe to the MI6 Sports Network. We greatly appreciate all your constant love and support. You guys could also follow my Twitter as well at Ben Kruse, which I'll put here. One at Ben Kruse 144. I put a lot of stuff specifically baseball related, football related, sports related. I'm a Boston fan myself in general, for you guys that do not know. So I have a lot of stuff there. And we also plan to have a guest on, my co-host Isaiah Leon, in about 25-30 minutes. So hopefully he'll come on pretty soon, and then we'll also hopefully have James Gonzalez on. I'm not sure specifically about his schedule, but yeah. So like I said, we got a lot to talk about in the NFL. Well, of course, we'll discuss the divisional round weekend that happened this past weekend. We'll discuss in terms of the games that happened, which there were a lot of good games on tap this past weekend. We'll discuss the matchups for Championship Sunday that will be happening on this Sunday. And then we'll also talk about the coaching carousel that has obviously been going around as of late. So we'll obviously talk about that stuff as well. And then, of course, we'll talk some NBA. Obviously, in the NBA world right now, it's basically just off-season trade buzz. It's pretty much the trade buzz right now, and free agency coming up in about a month. The season itself's going on, so I do apologize. Not the off season. The season is in full swing. It's been in full swing. It's the trade deadline will be coming up in about a month. So we'll talk about some potential guys on the block. There's already a trade that went down a couple days ago with Terry Rozier, former Celtic. And then after NBA, we'll talk a little of baseball. Still not a lot going on really in baseball right now. But we'll obviously get a little bit of that content stuff as well. So without further ado, let's get started. And we'll first of all get into the games that transpired this past weekend. Now, we had 4 games on tap. Obviously, the Saturday slate, we had the Texans and the Ravens for the 4:30 slot. And then in the Saturday slot, we had the Packers and the Niners. So I'll first start with the Texans and the Ravens game. Now, I thought specifically this game was going to be close. You had 2 quarterbacks that were obviously red hot, Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud. But the thing about it with those 2 quarterbacks and with the 2 teams is you got one team that's kind of on the come up, and that's the Texans, CJ Stroud. And then you have the Ravens, who of course had been really the team that's probably been the most hottest team of all this playoff. So I wasn't pretty much thinking it was going to be towards the Texans' favor, but I thought maybe they'd give them a potential chance. But I thought maybe they would give him a game. We had to kind of see in terms of like how things would go. But let's recap that game first. On tap. Obviously I was watching the first half from my car because I was coming back from an event that my uncle was in, but I did get the chance to watch most of the second half at my place. And the final score for this game specifically, it was the Ravens 34-10. But I got to say this, and I'll go through the game kind of how the way it transpired before I get into the overall Texans season as a whole, because you can look at this and be like, well, they lost by 24 points. They lost by 3 to 4 scores, and it's like they didn't play well, and yeah, they didn't play well. But I mean, Texans fans have to be absolutely happy, happy for themselves because they've been so bad for so long. They obviously fired their coach in Levy Smith last year. They just had a lot of awful years, and they picked in the number 2 pick last year, and they found their quarterback for the future. Definitely. I mean, CJ obviously a Ohio State fan, but yeah, just happy for him. The way that he played this season. But yeah, let's quickly go on this game really quick. You look at this as a whole. Justin Tucker had a 53-yard field goal in the first quarter. Ravens had a 3-0 lead. And then Kyle Fairbairn had a 50-yard field goal to make it 3-3. Then we go to the second quarter. Lamar Jackson hit Nelson Aguilar for a 3-yard touchdown. It was a 10-3 score. And then Steven Sims had a 67-yard touchdown for a punt return for a score that tied the game at halftime. So it was 10-10 in the first half. It pretty much was a back-to-back type of score in the first half. All right. Now, the second half, it basically was all Ravens. The Texans actually did not score in the second half. Pretty much the Ravens really used their offensive running attack, which has pretty much been their strong suit all season. And Lamar Jackson's obviously his running ability. And Lamar had 2 touchdowns on the run in the second half. He had a 15-yard rush. And then in the fourth quarter, he had an 8-yard rush. And then in between those, Isaiah Likely, who's been really blossoming onto the scene, he had a touchdown of his own to make it, at the time, 31-10. And then Justin Tucker had a 43-yard field goal to ice it. And the final score was 34-10. Ravens are going to be going on to the AFC title game. And like I said, the Texans really, yeah, it's obviously disappointing the way it happened. But they should be able to hang their head high for sure. They had a really good season. D'Amico Ryans obviously came in for his first year and did a lot of great things. So they're going to definitely be a force for years to come. They remind me, I think, of the Jaguars from last year, where they have a really young squad, and they just need to have a little more time. And I think that over the next couple of years, they're definitely going to be a team for sure to watch. So it's really exciting to see what's going on with CJ and company over in Houston. All right, let's take a look at the night slate for Saturday. We have the Green Bay Packers taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And let me tell you, I got to say with these two teams, the Packers obviously coming off of a massive win last week in Dallas. And then the Niners are obviously we're waiting for the opponent. Of course, the Niners were on their first round bye. And I was thinking to myself in this game, coming in, that I thought that the Packers were going to give them a test. I didn't think it was going to be this close. And I didn't think that the Packers were going to dominate as much as they did in this game. Now, the weather obviously was a factor. It was kind of raining a lot in this one. But, you got to give the Packers a lot of credit. They were not worried about this game. They came in, they played with basically guns blazing until the end. So let's recap this one here. And I got to say this about the Packers too. The Packers seem to find their long-term answer with Jordan Love. There's actually reports after the season for the Packers that they're trying to get a long-term deal done with Jordan Love, which should be something that's deserved for sure. Um, but I will talk about some things in this game that obviously came back to bite him. Because despite of him obviously having a very good postseason and a fairly promising regular season for his kind of his first year post Aaron Rodgers, obviously that there were some things to build off of that he could have worked on in this game specifically. So in the first half, we had Anders Carlson only with the score between the two sides. So it was 3-0. And then the second quarter, we had Brock Purdy hitting George Kittle for a 32-yard score, made it 7-3. Carlson hit a 29-yard field goal, made it 7-6. So it was 7-6 at halftime. It's a really low score. Like I said, there really wasn't a lot of scoring in that first half. Then we go to the second half. Jordan Love hit Bill Melton, tight end, for 19-yard score, made it 13-7. So the Packers were up 13-7. And then the Niners came back on the third quarter. Now, Deebo Samuel had to leave the game early. He had a shoulder injury, which is definitely something to be monitored. And this weekend slate against the Detroit Lions for the championship game. But in the second half, after Deebo Samuel got hurt, that Niners offense was very ineffective. And the Niners are a team that they don't want to play from behind. They're a very good team that's above, and they want to play on their terms. And I thought that the Packers in this game did a really good job of, giving them fit specifically. And, obviously we'll talk about the finish in this one, but for a lot of this game, the Packers really had the control. So obviously, like I said, they just made some key mistakes at the end, which I'll talk about. But yeah, Deebo Samuel's obviously that injury after he got hurt after the first half. They had a really hard time with the football. They did, though, have a touchdown by Christian McCaffrey, his first of two from that night. He had a 39-yard score. So the Niners actually took a 14-13 lead. But the Packers came back with a 2-yard touchdown from Jordan Love to Tucker Kraft. They also got a 2-point conversion, submitted 21-14. And then the fourth quarter, Jake Moody had a 52-yard field goal, so it was 21-17. Now, the Packers, obviously, right at the end, this is kind of how things went. So essentially, the Packers had a chance to make it 24-17. Anders Carlson, I believe, let me take a look here. He missed a 41-yard field goal with 6 minutes and 21 seconds left. And then the ensuing drive, Brock Purdy, that was probably his best drive without Deebo for the night. And it was obviously the most important drive of the whole entire night for the Niners, which they needed. He hit Jawan Jennings on the first pass for a 7-yard gain. And then Purdy had a 2-yard run on his 3rd and 1. So his first down, he got McCaffrey for 5. On the 3rd and 5, he hit Ayuk for 10, and he hit Chris Connolly for 17, I'm sorry. And then he hit Kittle for 8, so he started to cook a little bit right at the end, like I was saying. And then on that finishing drive, so essentially they milked from 6 minutes and 18 seconds to 1 minute and 11 seconds. And the Niners took the lead. But the Packers still had a chance, despite all of their mess at the end. And they had 1 minute and 7 left. And Jordan Love essentially take them to potentially a game-time field goal or go in and potentially take the upset after the way that they were playing pretty much their whole entire night. And Jordan Love threw a awful interception on the first down, about 52 seconds left. He was rolling out to the right. And one thing that you should never do as a quarterback is to throw across your body. He essentially did what Brett Favre did a while back, and where he threw across his body and got picked off. I mean, if Jordan Love obviously wanted to learn that play and do it again, I would have just thrown it away and left another down. It's first down. I get it if it's like, 3rd down or 4th down, but it was first down, 52 seconds left. And, it sucks, And obviously, I think probably the moment was a little too big for him, but, it was a good game. It was a good game, and the Packers, obviously, like I said, they can't really hang their head too much. They played well, and obviously the Packers obviously have made some coaching decisions already as they let go Joe Barry, their defensive coordinator. That's obviously, I think, big news for Packer fans because I think they're ready for him to be gone. So that's that. All right, so we got those two games out of the way from the Saturday slate. Let's talk about the Sunday games, as it looks like we might have our first guest here from the night. My good co-host, my guy James Gonzalez. James, hope you're doing well. It's been a hot minute, James, since we talked last. So before we get started with the remainder of our show, James, how are you doing?
Things can always get better, and I hope they will. But luckily, there's sports around to talk about and to think about and everything else. I think you're in the middle of a divisional recap, and we saw some good games, and we also saw ones that didn't make sense with some decision making, and I've had many thoughts about that.
Yeah, so I just got into the Saturday game slate, because obviously we can talk about the Sunday slate. So what do you think about the games from the Saturday slate with the Ravens obviously kind of really taking control of that game against the Texans? And then you had the Niners game, obviously, where the Packers really had control of a lot of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Niners obviously kind of took it at the end there with the Jordan Love interception thrown across his body with 52 seconds left. I really obviously didn't get that, but the 49ers found a way to pull it at the end. So what do you think about those games really quick? And, now the Ravens and the Niners are going to be going to the NFC and AFC title games.
Houston was one of those great stories of the year. It didn't start off that way. We remember, I think, in week 1, these two played each other, and it was totally different. I mean, the Ravens looked okay at that point, but the Texans looked awful. But they came in and made a season out of it. They won their division, won a playoff game, hosted one and played and won one. You just knew it was going to be a difficult task. Going on the road, playing outside in cold conditions, I think that didn't really favor the Texans. They were down 2 receivers as well, Tank Dell and Noah Brown, so I knew they were kind of done for with that. The Ravens are pretty much a machine right now when you have Lamar Jackson just running down the middle and there's no linebackers there to keep him contained. I think that's a definite key for the Chiefs this week coming up. But for Houston, I'm just proud of them. I mean, nobody thought they would be doing anything. I remember making a YouTube video, talking about what they've done, getting Dalton Schultz, kind of spending in free agency, trying to help out their quarterback. I almost thought the same progress would be made, but with Carolina. And boy, was I wrong. It was the total opposite. But I'm proud of the Texans, CJ Stroud, and he'll probably be Rookie of the Year, I'm guessing, or at least Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know Puka Nacua has something to say about that. And I'm just happy for both situations. For the game, though, I just knew Baltimore just had it. They have a really good crowd, a really good home advantage, and you'll see it. Man, that 49er Packer game, I was really invested in the Packers winning that. Somehow, some way, and once Deebo Samuel got hurt, I was like, oh, God, this game is going to be really, really close, and it was. Just little things. I mean, special teams came back to hurt the Packers, and you just knew at the end of that game that the 49ers had all the momentum, that they were just going to ride off and win the game like that. But man, didn't that look familiar? A Green Bay quarterback, rolling out to the right, throwing off his back foot into the middle of the field dangerously. That looked like Brett Favre. That looked like Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I mean, Jordan Love, for all the progress he's making, he's fitting in very well, looking like a Packer quarterback. But no, he had a great season. He had all these young receivers around him. Aaron Jones, after all the injuries, he finally looked good at the end of the season. I was very surprised by the Packers. I don't think anybody had them in the playoffs. Maybe competing for a wild card spot, and they certainly did. They got the last one. I was very happy for them, and I really wanted them to win. I wanted Detroit to host another playoff game. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Man, because Detroit and Green Bay played each other well this year, and they both split their two meetings. But 49ers, they're still a beast. They still have all their players, and they're still really good. You just knew, again, the weather came back to haunt Green Bay. It was that last drive, you just knew with the rain coming down, the Packers so many yards away from the end zone or from the field goal, you just knew there was no way that they were going to win that.
And speaking of Niners, we have our fellow co-host that is a Niner fan, Isaiah Leone. Isaiah, hope you're doing well, my friend. It's been a hot minute since we've had our last show, which was last week. But I'm glad we've been able to do one this week and obviously talk about some of the games from this past weekend. We'll obviously talk into the games from this weekend. So, Isaiah, how are you doing, my friend? And like I asked James, what do you think of the games from this past Saturday slate?
What's up, guys? Hope all of you guys are doing well. It's good to see you guys. I'm doing great. I got 2 more days of work after having a 2-day weekend, and then I go on vacation for about a week and a half from work. So I purposely scheduled my vacation week for this week because I wanted to watch the NFC Championship game, and it almost backfired on me, honestly, because I had before, this was back in December, I had pre-planned what I was going to do for the NFC Championship, the Divisional round, and the Super Bowl. And if the Niners had lost against Green Bay on Saturday, well, I would have been screwed because I had taken a week off from work for the NFC Championship, and then I took a week off from work on Super Bowl Sunday. So I was just hoping that I would get to see the Niners win the Super Bowl and celebrate. So thank God they pulled that off, because if they didn't, I basically wasted 2 weeks of vacation for no reason. But yeah, I mean, doing well, and there's a good chance I might be going to China on Saturday. So I'm trying to see how I can watch the game while I'm in China, without being getting flagged for using illegal streams and all that. So hope I get to make it back safely to America. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun. Can't wait for that. And how about Brock Purdy, James and Ben? He looked like the second coming of Brady and Joe Montana in that final drive. That was Brady-esque in that final drive with that absolute clutch drive that he had 6 for 7. I mean, what a crazy drive. But in terms of the games, Ben, do you want me to get into the Sunday games or just the Saturday games?
We're about to talk about the Sunday games after you'll talk about the Saturday games. I didn't get the chance to talk the Sunday games yet because I was going to wait for both you guys.
Oh, okay. So I'll just get into the Saturday games. The Ravens and Texans game, I mean, give credit to C.J. Stroud and the Texans. They hung tough. They actually gave the Ravens surprisingly a fight in that first half in frigid Baltimore. But yeah, I mean, they gave them a fight, but sadly the Texans just ran out of gas. The Ravens were the better team. Their defense suffocated C.J. Stroud in that second half. I really think the turning point of that game was when Lamar Jackson threw a ball right to Petrie, I think it was, but Petrie couldn't come up with it. I mean, that changed the game because that gave the Ravens another shot, and the Ravens scored a touchdown on that drive. And if that's an interception, C.J. Stroud and the Texans, they get the football back. It's a tie game. Who knows? They probably go down and score. It really completely changed the momentum of the game. So I felt like that was a turning point of the game. But Stroud, the Ravens, I felt like did a great job of, letting Stroud get his great passing yards, let him, get his big gains. But in the end, what they did was when the Texans were in the ends or the red zone, they bent, but they didn't break. They forced them to field goals. They forced the Texans to go backwards when they were closing in on scoring. Like, it was just a phenomenal job by that Ravens defense. And Lamar Jackson, I mean, throwing the ball wise, wasn't as sharp in that first half, but definitely in the second half, he definitely fixed the issues that he had. And then the running game. I mean, the running game and the defense really carried them in this game. And then the Niners-Packers game. Guys, I watched that game, and I think I might have died 3 times during that game. I mean, that's how intense that game was. And, coming into that game, I kind of had a thought. I know a lot of 49er fans were kind of like, oh, Green Bay's going to be easy because they're the 7th seed. But I kept telling people all week, don't overlook the Packers, because Jordan Love against the Cowboys and the past month, he's been looking like Patrick Mahomes out there, like throwing off his back foot, throwing the ball 60, 70 yards, putting it in tight windows. I mean, he's been very, very impressive. And I really think that for the Green Bay Packers, they were a red-hot team, and that's a team that you don't want to face because they're red-hot going into the playoffs. They're playing with nothing to lose. They're having fun. They're playing loose out there. Like, those are the teams that are the most dangerous team to play in the playoffs. So I was kind of scared of the Packers going in, and, the Niners pass rush, and I've been saying this for a couple weeks now, they've been very disappointing. Like, you got Nick Bosa, you got Eric Armstead, you got Javon Hargraves, you've got Chase Young out there, you got a vaunted defensive line, but we just, for some reason, don't know how to get pressure. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with the Niners. The Niners barely got to Jordan Love in that game. They gave him like 10 seconds to throw the football on every single play. Jordan Love had so much time. He was going through his third and fourth progressions by the time the Niners actually had a pass rusher in his face. It was just embarrassing. And Jordan Love, like those 2 interceptions, I know he threw 2 interceptions, but there were many balls that he threw that should have been caught, or on a typical normal weather day, those would have been, easy passes and for big gains. So that was definitely worrisome. But, like I said in my opening remarks, I mean, what really saved the Niners was the kicker for the Green Bay Packers, Anders Carlson, missing that field goal. Because I think if he makes that field goal, I think the 49ers are sitting at home today packing for their trip to Cancun because their season is done. And also, what really saved the season was Jawan Jennings. I don't know, Ben and James, if you guys saw that, but that catch where Jennings is going across the middle and Purdy throws it just over the head of the Packers linebacker, and Jennings makes an unbelievable leaping catch. That saved the season because that was like 3rd and 10. He makes that play. You get a fresh set of downs to continue that drive. But that was an outstanding drive by Purdy. I mean, there was all the pressure on the world on him, and he definitely delivered. He showed that he's a franchise quarterback, and he delivered when it mattered the most, and he was outstanding that last drive. I think he was like 6 for 7. He was, and the one pass that he missed, that was where George Kittle had it right in his hand, and he dropped it, and he missed it. So, Purdy definitely saved the Niners, and I'll give him credit because any young quarterback would have definitely wilted, but Purdy didn't wilt under that pressure. But, moving forward, I am scared of that defense because the defense for the Niners, they have not gotten pass rush the last 4 or 5 weeks. And that's very concerning because I don't care who you play in the NFL. Like, I don't care what quarterback you're going up against. If you give any quarterback 10 seconds or more with a clean pocket to throw the football, they're going to torch you. Like, you could put the kid from the Bears, Badgett, you put him under center instead of Jared Goff, he's going to torch you with that much time. You put Bailey Zappi under center, he'll torch you with that much time. Like, any quarterback in the NFL would torch you with that much time. So the Niners definitely got to get that fixed. They definitely need to fix the tackling because that was very concerning on Saturday with how many missed tackles that they had. And also, they got to get better against the run because Detroit, and I know we'll get into the next game later, but Detroit, they love to run the football, and Jared Goff is tremendous in the play action game. And if you don't fix the pass rush and if you don't stop the run, well, then you're playing right into the advantage of the Detroit Lions. So, what a great win by the Niners, though. They survived, which is a great thing. And, now we'll play Detroit and see what happens.
Yeah, and as I was going to ask you about the, obviously you guys won, but talk about Jordan Love because I was obviously talking about, James mentioned about the Texans. I was talking about the Texans as well too in terms of like, yeah, they lost, right? But like they have their promising quarterback. Green Bay has their promising quarterback, and it's like the Packers went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, and a lot of people thought Jordan Love was a bust here and there, and it's like, man, like I think that the Packers just have just a quarterback like they just know how to develop quarterbacks. It's absolutely insane. So I just want to get your overall thoughts about Jordan Love because I know you've been high on him from the start, and it was a great season for him. And now there's obviously some news potentially that they might extend him for a long-term extension. So how do you feel like the Packers did? Because I don't think a lot of people have the Packers going this far.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers definitely surprised a lot of people. They're well ahead of schedule. Jordan Love, I mean, Ben and James, he looks like Patrick Mahomes 2.0. I mean, he was making throws out there that only guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen can make, like just superhuman throws that he was making. And I didn't. I'll make this confession. I never really saw him play. The one time I did see him play in the regular season was against the Raiders, and unfortunately, he wasn't really that good.
Oh, yeah, that's
But
right.
yeah, against the Cowboys is what really got me
Yep.
convinced that he's the guy because he was just making a lot of these like great throws that only like superhuman superstar quarterbacks can make. And I definitely bought into him from the beginning. Matt LaFleur, I think that this season really showed that, hey, he's a great offensive mind because a lot of people were saying before the season, oh, he's just a product of Aaron Rodgers. But Matt LaFleur finally got to show that, hey, I'm a really good offensive mind. He got to prove it. And, the defense actually was not bad. Like the Packers for years, their defense has been their kryptonite. But this time around, their defense actually played really good. And I definitely got to give them credit. So, Packers, they definitely surprised a lot of people. I think if you can get maybe like another number one receiver for Jordan Love, you get him some more weapons, surround him with some more weapons. I think the Green Bay Packers next year can definitely potentially contend for a Super Bowl, depending on what they do this offseason. Like, I think they should extend Jordan Love. I think he definitely deserves a multi-year rich extension. I don't think they should give him a contract that's like really rich because he has only 1 year under his belt so far. Maybe like give him like 35 million around there. And then you'll have more money to spend to surround him with weapons. But it depends what they do. If they can get him like a legit number one outside of Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, upgrade the wide receivers, then I think that Jordan Love and the Packers, they definitely can. They could be big time contenders next season. And if you look at the division, Detroit's not going anywhere. Minnesota, I feel like they're kind of that mediocre stage right now where they don't know what they're doing. But I think next year it's going to be Green Bay and it's going to be Detroit, and it's going to be a fun battle for sure to see who wins that division.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously those are the two games from the Saturday slate. Let's go to the Sunday game slates. We had the Buccaneers taking on the Detroit Lions. Obviously the Lions are coming off of their last week, the one before against the Rams. And the Bucs obviously coming off of their win against the Eagles. Now, this obviously was a game I think a lot of people thought that the Lions were pretty much favored by, but the Buccaneers guys, I mean, Baker Mayfield. I'll talk about Baker after we talk about this game, but like, talk about Baker in terms of his story. He obviously was a guy off the bench for a while after he played well with Cleveland. Then he obviously went to the Panthers, and then he was over at the Rams. He got cut a couple times. So, I mean, he had a really good first year with Tampa Bay, despite this result that we're going to get into. But the Lions came up on top. Yes, the Detroit Lions, guys, are we going on to the NFC title game? It's absolutely incredible. And I was saying this off the air that this feels like a team of destiny. And Isaiah, for your Niners, man. I mean, this is going to be a really fun test because I don't know if you guys played them in the regular season. I don't think you guys did. Uh, yeah, it's going to be a good one. Let's just quickly go through the overall recap of this one really quick because I obviously got through some of the recaps before you guys both came on the air on the Saturday ones. So in this one, we had the first quarter, 2 field goals from each teams. And then Josh Reynolds in the second quarter had a score. Kate Otten had a score to make it 10-10. So it was 10-10 after the first half. And then the second half, we had another Reynolds, who was a running back, Craig Reynolds, getting a 1 yard score, making it 17-10. Rashad White had a touchdown, make it 17-17. So it was tied after the 3 quarters. And then we go to the fourth quarter. And Jahmyr Gibbs, who I want to thank really much because I had a 4-pick parlay with one of my bets, and he was an anytime touchdown scorer. So I thank him. Unfortunately, James Cook didn't help me because it was a 4-pick parlay, and he was the one that failed me. But Jahmyr Gibbs helped me there. 31-yard score, made it 24-17. And then Goff hit Amon-Ra St. Brown. Really good throw to make it 31-17. And that pretty much at that point in time, guys, it felt like the Lions pretty much had the game in the bag. But it was about 3 minutes to 4 minutes left. The Buccaneers pretty much kind of hung around. They got a defensive stop with the Lions essentially trying to put the game away. And then Baker hit Mike Evans for the score. And then you guys also have to take a look into the that 2-point conversion play. I don't know if you guys felt like that was the right play call at that time at Todd Bowles because it could have been 31-24. And then it's like, they're going to get the ball back possibly, which they did. And unfortunately, it didn't matter at the time. It's like if they got a touchdown, it's like, they would have to go for 2 again. It's like at that point in time, it just did not feel like the right call. But, Baker, unfortunately, on that final drive after you got to Evans, he threw a pick, and that was that. So it's 31-23. I'll go to you, Isaiah. What do you think about this overall game between the Bucs and Lions? Obviously, the Bucs had a really good season on their end. I don't think many people thought Baker Mayfield pretty much had much left in the tank, and he had a really good game in this one. I mean, yeah, he had 2 interceptions. He had that game clinching and ending interception, but he threw for 350 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. Mike Evans had a monster day. The Buccaneers definitely have their quarterback, at least for the next couple of years, especially trying to, go against after what Brady was doing with Tampa Bay. So really good story in Tampa. But, the Lions has just been another level this postseason. And I'm just really happy for Detroit. Really happy for their fan base. And I'm looking forward to seeing in terms of how they do next week.
Yeah, this was a hell of a game. I watched it coming back from work. The first half was definitely very entertaining. I mean, the Lions looked like they were going to pull ahead and just run away with it, but then the Bucs just hung in there and they actually tied the game in that first half when they were getting literally nothing going offensively. And Mike Evans, I mean, that drive before halftime where he makes those 2 unbelievable catches, I thought that really saved the game for the Buccaneers in terms of keeping it competitive. And then, credit to the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute stud. I mean, that guy went off in the second half. The Buccaneers, they weren't able to capitalize on some possessions that the Lions handed to them. And the Lions defense got some timely stops. And I really think, guys, the crux of the game really came down to analytics screwing over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is why you don't use analytics and you use your guts. Because why would you go for 2 in that situation when you're down by you were down by, I believe, 8 at that point. Or no, yeah, you were down by 8 before the extra point. Why would you go for 2? It makes no sense whatsoever. For you to go for 2. That's absolutely stupid. Like when Todd Bowles went for it, I was like, are you kidding me, dude? Like you were down by 14. You scored the touchdown. You're down by 8 now, pending the extra point. Kick the extra point and then score the touch. And then if you get the ball back, it'll make it easier because you could score the touchdown and kick the extra point. You go into overtime. Like it just like doesn't make any sense why he's going for 2. I just think that was the most just utterly stupid decision by Todd Bowles in that situation. Like that's just like nor any coach would be like, yeah, we're gonna kick the extra point because then if we score and then we kick the extra point and we're going to overtime. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like some of Todd Bowles' game management decisions really came back to bite the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, like you mentioned, Ben, had a really good game. I think the Buccaneers have found their quarterback for like the next couple of seasons. Jared Goff was tremendous. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, that dude is the most underrated and underhyped wide receiver in the NFL. Like, he's a stud. And
so good.
Yeah, he is. And, you know, my Niners are definitely going to be, like, very afraid of him. I hope we're very afraid of him on Sunday. But, yeah, I mean, he's a stud. He was tremendous late. Laporta was also great coming back from injury. And then, you know, I just don't understand going for two in that situation. Like that basically killed the game right there for the Buccaneers and left them with no shot. And also the timeout usage, like you mentioned late in the game, that really hampered the Bucs. So credit to the Lions. Congrats to them. It's going to be a fun NFC championship for sure. Two teams that kind of match up similarity style wise. So that's going to be fun. But you know, credit to both teams on a great game, and can't wait for that NFC championship. And you know, the Bucs, I feel like they found their quarterback. They have some good receivers with Evans and Godwin. What they do need to
they gotta pay Evans, but you know, hopefully they probably will.
Yeah, but that offensive line, they need to fix that because that offensive line was getting badly beaten all game by the Lions' defensive line.
Yeah, definitely. All right, James, what do you think about this one?
All right, so I'm really, I was really shocked by how many people watched that game. I didn't realize it was that many people. I mean, I did. I wasn't really entertained by it at first. It was real low scoring. Both defense did their jobs, but. Yeah, I think it came down to execution. You know, both teams finally got out of the offensive woes and scored. But just like Isaiah mentioned, I still don't understand why they didn't go for, or why they didn't just take the extra point. That's the analytical crap, and I really hate that crap. Right there, once I saw that and they didn't execute it, that made me think, okay, something's going on. Like, why would they do that? You know, I know there was all this talk about, is it all rigged or is it all scripted? And that made me think right there that, like, hey, you know, that could be something. But I just don't understand that move by Todd Bowles. And then, of course, at the end of the game, he was thinking, well, there's no way we can stop the clock to give ourselves a chance. And then the Lions, you know, downed it on a third down, and there would have been, I think, 11 seconds left, I want to say, because Tampa Bay had a timeout. But Todd Bowles, in the press conference later, said, oh, yeah, we were not going to get the ball and score anyway in that time. Well, hey, if you got a block punt, if you got a punt return, and 2-point conversion, you're back in it. And then if you went into overtime, you know, the Lions could have, you know, went 3 and out. And then you could have won the game. That would have been like a Lions move. But just Todd Bowles, he's always been questionable with his decisions and all that. But the Lions, let me say this. There was a moment with, I believe, 6 minutes left, or around 6 minutes left in the fourth, where they showed, I think it was just after they scored a touchdown. So they kicked off, and it was a touchback. But as the Bucs were coming on the field, the offense and the Lion defense was coming on, I think the Lion special teams members was getting the crowd all hyped up. The towels were waving. There was a banner that some fan brought in that had the owner, Ford, and the GM and head coach and the players there. And it just felt like a surreal moment. I kind of got not emotional, but you could feel whatever you felt in that building with all the star power that was there too. Like Detroit was really represented, not only celebrity-wise, but then fan-wise. But you felt like something was really happening there. And that moment, like I said, they just needed one more stop to go to the NFC Championship game. you could just feel like, okay, they got the game, and if they don't, it'd be a miracle. But yeah, credit to the Bucks. I mean, they won the division, I think, at 9-8. Mayfield, he was good the first 3 weeks. They had that that worst time of a bye week.
Yeah.
I think it was the first series of byes, and they had that week 4. They slipped a little bit, and then the defense kept getting hurt. And their defense is really good because they have a lot of veterans, and then they have some youngsters. And then they got hot sort of at the right time. They did lose that game in week 17 when they could have had a shot to win the division, but they won in week 18. They won a playoff game over Philadelphia. You could say Philadelphia was in shambles, but still, that's really a big success. I really thought they would be competing for, a third place finish. You guys mentioned the off season with Baker Mayfield being a free agent, but most importantly, Mike Evans. When you think about it, all of his career, every year he's had 1,000 yards receiving, always close to 10 touchdowns a season. This dude has been a first ballot Hall of Fame player. I don't know why they didn't re-sign him. Maybe they thought it was just, hey, we're moving on to a new direction. But now he's out there. And if I was a team like the Chargers, that'd be my first call. Because I would say, well, I hate the Chargers, but the veterans there. Keenan Allen always gets hurt. Mike Williams always gets hurt. The young receivers get hurt. That would be a tremendous connection. And then you legitimately have a shot to make the playoffs every year. So if I was the Chargers, I would offer Mike Evans a good contract. If the Bucks lose him, they wouldn't be as successful because they would be stuck with Godwin, and Devin White ran well, but losing Evans would be really bad. But credit to the Lions, they did enough. The defense did great. Lots of players are shining for Detroit.
Yeah, I think for like Mayfield, they'll probably give him like a 2-year deal, probably somewhere around there. Probably a team friendly. So, yeah, I mean, both those two quarterbacks. Goff obviously has been great all year, and then Baker obviously for his resurgence here, was really good. All right, let's talk about the game of the weekend. Of course, I guess you could say like the new rivalry, even though James, it's not really like a rivalry at this point. It's more of like a one-sided for the postseason. Think about it though, with this case, with the Chiefs and the Bills. The Bills really have had their number in the regular season, but in the postseason, it's been more of the Chiefs. This was obviously Patrick Mahomes' first game in the postseason on the road. And then you look at the Bills, obviously, they're coming off of their win last week against the Steelers. And the Chiefs, obviously, they're coming off their win against Miami. So obviously, two teams are coming off of wins there. All right, James, let's get to the thick and thins of this game specifically. I was looking at this overall, the stats when you were talking about the Bucks and Lions game. The Chiefs only was 1 of 5 from third downs the whole entire game. And they somehow found a way to win this game with only 1 first down. And then the Bills were 7 of 14 on third down. So they were 50% on third downs. You would have thought that on the other side that the Bills were going to win this game. But, obviously they did some things at the end were obviously a little controversial, a little ticky-tack. And the Bills, too, had 78 plays compared to the Chiefs' 47 plays. So, that's football on the day. Sometimes it's just the matter of luck at times, and it's just the matter of execution when it's mattered. All right, let's get into the overall scoring here. In the first quarter, we had Tyler Bass and Harrison Butker exchange field goals, so it's 3-3. And then the second quarter, and we kind of went back and forth. We had Josh Allen with a 5-yard score, and that was Butker with the field goal made 10-6. And then Travis Kelce with his first touchdown of the game, which he went over to kiss that suite of the Taylor Swift suite, which I'm not surprised about, right? Because that's been kind of a whole fiasco every single week. And then we had Josh Allen with a 2-yard score. So 17-13 Bills after the first half. Second half, Mahomes hit Kelsey for his second of the game. Made it 2017. Allen hit Khalil Shakir. Beautiful play, by the way, guys. That touchdown where he was rolling out to one of I think the left side and he threw it right on. I mean, it was incredible. But Josh Allen was able to do that. Arm strength of his was on display there. And then the fourth quarter, Pacheco had a 4-yard score, so it's 27-24. Obviously, Tyler Bass had a chance to tie it with about 3 minutes left. He absolutely shanked it. Soon Jar, the Chiefs just only needed a first down, and they got it from Pacheco, and that was that. So the Chiefs had a 27-24 final score, their first ever road playoff victory. The first on Patrick Mahomes' resume, because why not? Mahomes is doing Mahomes things at this point in time. And the Bills, guys, it's like, when are they ever going to do it? Because it just didn't seem like this year's Chiefs team was even that great. We were talking about it. I know Isaiah was talking about it. And it's just like they found a way. And I thought to myself in the playoffs, it's like, if Mahomes is your quarterback, it was like Brady and a lot of these quarterbacks, they're going to be able to elevate a lot of the talent no matter who's on that team. And Josh Allen did obviously the best he could, right? He did the best he could all the way to the end. And Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he made the plays at the end to get it done. Now, obviously, two things that I saw in this one for the Bills. Obviously, the drive, obviously, where they missed the field goal, guys, the Tyler Bass shank, right? Josh Allen was going deep on the 2 plays before. And I thought to myself, why? I'm like, Josh Allen was great. And it's just like, if he was able to get a couple of chunk plays, maybe in front, maybe a pass to Stephon Diggs or somebody else, it's like, man. It's like they could have been able to get that field goal a little bit shorter specifically. And then obviously it's like Sean McDermott, what the hell are you doing for going for that fake, man? DeMar Hamlin out of all people. It's like, that almost pretty much cost them right then and there. Obviously McCole Hardman had that touchback, but obviously that was that. I think that the Bills obviously have what it takes, but they can't find the Chiefs. They just can't solve the Chiefs' problem at all. So James, I'll go to you first. What was your overall thoughts on this one? It's just another classic of a game. Like I said, those just two teams just go back and forth out, and they just obviously give me a lot of the Brady Manning just back and forth classic type of games for sure. Obviously right now it's kind of one-sided, regular season and postseason. But yeah, what do you think?
It's a good back and forth game, but just the oddness of those plays, like you mentioned, really, reared their heads into this game. I was really, really dumbfounded again by that fake punt at your own 30 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
When everybody in the building knows, like, okay, just punt it away. You don't need to shock the world in a playoff game, that you need to definitely win, and then you just do that. Right away, I was at my dad's house and I was yelling, "What the hell are they doing?" I just couldn't believe it. I was like, "Hey, you deserve to lose after that." There was a fumble too that luckily an offensive lineman got back on from Josh Allen. For all the great things he does fumble a lot on the run. He gets stripped from behind or something like that. So they get away with stuff, but again, they made some errors that costed them the game. The field goal, of course, by Bass that went wide right.
Sorry, Bills fans.
The older Bills fans just have such a.
They'll never get that. They'll never get that away. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they have such a hard time at field goals. With Scott Norwood back in '90. It's just amazing how, or 91. It's amazing how many moments they've had against the Chiefs, and then this is just another one. And credit to the Chiefs, though. They just stayed in the game. They scored enough. They got the one play that really pissed me off, too, by the Bills was on their defensive side, where somebody blew an assignment, and then Kelsey is wide open in the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of the receivers basically took all the attention to him. All the safeties came up instead of going back to cover Kelsey. That's why Kelsey was so wide open. I mean, that was just ridiculous. And then, of course, you know, the kiss to Taylor and Kelsey's brother going wild. You, you just didn't want to see any of that. You know, I really don't like the Chiefs. I wanted them to really lose, and I felt like this was probably the best opportunity that the Bills were ever going to have. The Chiefs not as explosive, not as sound. This was the only opportunity. Now I heard McDermott and the rest of the Bills saying, "Hey, we're not going to break up. We're not going to break up the team." Gabe Davis, who was out, probably won't come back. I know he was getting it from the fans because he was injured, and there was a video of him walking away after the game, and fans are yelling at him. You know, I think it was just everybody was pissed off at all the same time about the way things went. But man, it's just another Bills moment where they kick themselves, you know, and then the Chiefs just getting lucky like they've been, and they could continue to do it. They're probably going to do it.
What about you, Isaiah? What did you feel about this game, the Chiefs-Bills game? Just another classic that we had, and you know, obviously the Chiefs pull it out again.
Yeah. So I actually didn't really get to watch much of this game. I was gonna watch the whole game from start to finish, but after Jim Nantz and Tony Romo did their opening intros and the game kicked off, I was sitting in my chair while at home while watching the game, and I had gotten up at around 3:30 a.m. That day because I had to work at 5 in the morning, and I guess I fell asleep because by the time I woke up, it was in the fourth quarter with about 7 minutes left. So I got to catch the good part, but I missed literally the entirety of the game. But yeah, you know, this was a classic. I think, like we all expected, this was gonna be, you know, the best game out of this entire divisional round because I don't think anybody expected Niners and Packers to be how it turned out, or Bucks and Lions to be how it turned out. But this was going to be the game because you had Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes going against each other. And, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, this is Brady Manning 2.0. For it to be a rivalry like that, a legendary rivalry, both of the quarterbacks have to win against each other in the playoffs. And right now, Patrick Mahomes is 3-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs. And like James mentioned, this was the golden opportunity for the Buffalo Bills. You know, if you didn't win at this time, you're never going to be Patrick Mahomes. And sadly, they just couldn't pull it off because they kept getting in their own way. You know, this is in Buffalo. You know, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are having a down year. The weapons aren't that good. You have a more complete team, and you still can't do it. Like, it just was really frustrating to watch. You know, I was rooting for the Bills. I wanted the Bills to win because I was tired of seeing Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, you know, going to the AFC Championship game or even into the Super Bowl. But this was just bad, boneheaded mistakes by not just the players, but by Sean McDermott. And I think I said this on our group chat after the game, and I still mean it. Sean McDermott should be fired after this game. I'm the Buffalo Bills. I would fire Sean McDermott, and I would install Joe Brady as the head coach because I would not let Joe Brady leave my building after he resurrected that offense. That offense looks so much different than it was under Ken Dorsey, and it looks so under Ken Dorsey, and Josh Allen and Joe Brady meshed nicely. And, you know, Joe Brady, I think, has it to be a great head coach in this league. And you know, when you are a team that just can't get over the hump, you got to make some like crazy decisions like this. It kind of reminds me of when the Warriors let go of Mark Jackson and hired Steve Kerr. You know, Mark Jackson was a great coach, but he had kind of reached his ceiling as a coach, and they decided to try something new. I kind of think that this is what this is. It's kind of the Bills have reached their ceiling under McDermott, and they're just never going, sadly, to get over that hump and just get into the AFC champ or get into the Super Bowl and get rid of Kansas City. I think it's time for a change there. I think Joe Brady should be the head coach there. You cannot let that guy leave your building. The offense was tremendous. And Ben and James, sadly, it's just the curse of Buffalo. They just can't get out of their own way. The kick by Bass. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of had a feeling that he was going to miss it when he lined up to kick that field goal. I just had this feeling that he was going to miss it. And, sadly it came true. There's something about Buffalo and field goals that just don't mix together. Sadly for the Bills, another heartbreak in the postseason. And as far as the Chiefs are concerned, don't sleep on the Chiefs. Even though I don't want to see it happen, but I can see them beating the Ravens because the Ravens are kind of like the same thing like the Bills. They can't get over the Chiefs. They can't beat the Chiefs in the postseason. And Lamar, whenever he sees Mahomes, I don't know why this is the case, but every time Lamar sees Mahomes, it's like he sees a ghost out there on the football field. He automatically just cannot play football. Like, it makes no sense. So I think it's going to be a fun AFC championship game, but it as much as it pains me to say this, like, I could see Kansas City going back to the Super Bowl even in a down year.
All right, and Isaiah, obviously you transit over to the championship games itself. So let's get into those. We go first to the NFC side, and we'll obviously predict those games as well too. So the Detroit Lions will be taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the Lions have kind of been that underdog story all season. And obviously, the Niners are the number one seed. They've been arguably the best team in the AFC all season. Deebo Samuel, Isaiah, I don't know how concerned you are, but it sounds like he's going to try to play. From essentially after Kyle Shanahan essentially said today that he wasn't practicing, but I guess there was another report after saying that he was out there on the field, kind of on the side doing work. So that hopefully, kind of leans to maybe he's going to try to give his all. But I guess I'll go first. For me specifically, it's going to be a good one. I'm going to go here with the Niners. I just think specifically that the Lions obviously have had a great year, but they're obviously going on the road for the first time in the playoffs. It's obviously a new beast. They've been at home the last 2 weeks, which I think they've been a better home team pretty much the whole season. So I think that it's going to be a good one. I think right now the line is 6. I think right now the Niners are laying around 6.5. But I think it's going to be within 7 to 10 points. Give me the Niners here. It's going to be a really close game. I think that Isaiah, I obviously don't want to be the jinx here in terms of you guys going to the Super Bowl, but this is pretty much if Deebo's playing and stuff like that. I wouldn't sleep on the Lions though with the way they've been playing. I mean, I just think that Michigan with obviously the Wolverines over in the Natty, anything's possible. So. But yeah, what do you think? Because obviously you're the Niner fan, so I'll let you go first.
Well, guys, I got a perfect shirt for this occasion, and I had been planning to use it, and it actually came today for the first time, so I was very excited about this. But this is what I'm going to be wearing on Sunday, and this is what's going to be cemented right here.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you guys can see it right here. The GOAT status of this man, Brock Purdy, will be cemented on Sunday night when he leads the 49ers to the Super Bowl and becomes the second coming of Tom Brady and Joe Montana. This is tailor-made for Brock Purdy to emerge as the next superstar quarterback of the 49ers. This is the game right here, because if you play well, you win this game. This is your redemption from what happened last year when you got hurt. You didn't get to finish that game. And now you've talked all year about redemption. You want to get back to this point. Well, you're at this point now. It's time for you to play well in this game and for you to redeem yourself. And if Brock Purdy plays great football, I mean, he's going to be immortalized forever. So I think Purdy has a really good game. That Lions defense, that secondary, I don't really trust them. Outside of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they have a lot of young corners there, a lot of young safeties there. Kyle Shanahan is going to do a lot of motioning, and there's going to be a lot of eye candy involved. So you know that these corners, when you're young, you're not going to stay disciplined. They're going to I feel like they're going to be just a lot of confusion going on. I think there's going to be a lot of busted coverages. And then the run game, the Lions haven't really been that good against the run. Christian McCaffrey, he's an absolute monster. He's going, I feel like, to run wild in this game. And I feel like the Niners are going to come out. They're going to want to hit the Lions in the mouth. It's not like going to be last week against Green Bay, because I feel like they learned their lesson. And plus, they're coming in trying to get revenge after, what happened last year in that NFC Championship game. So, and then for the defense, for me, the biggest concern is the defense. Can the defense get pressure? And this is going to be very telling early. Can the defense get pressure on Jared Goff? If we can harass the heck out of Jared Goff, then I think it's going to be a long day for the Lions. But if Jared Goff has Jordan Love's time to throw the football out there on the field like Jordan Love had on Saturday night, well, then it's going to be a long day for the Niners, and it's going to be a shootout. So we're going to be able to tell early what's going to happen, but I have supreme confidence in Purdy. I think that Purdy is going to go in there with a mission, and he's going to be there like a man on a mission, and he's going to come out there and sling it. And I think that, with the offense, I think he'll be able to put up a lot of points. The defense is the key. Can they get pressure? If they do, they win it easily. I do think the Niners defense, after hearing a lot of noise about their bad performances the last month, I think they will be able to come in there and they'll actually wake up. And I don't think they'll dominate the Lions' offensive line, because the Lions have a really, really damn good offensive line. But I think that the Niners will be able to pressure Goff enough in order to force Goff into a lot of mistakes in this game. So give me the Niners to win this game. I think San Francisco goes to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna go 31-21. I think the defense gets a couple of interceptions like they did against Green Bay, and I think that Brock Purdy will cement his GOAT status in this game.
All right. Let's go to James.
Okay. I feel like the Niners are going to win. No, God, no. Man.
Want to comment on the shirt, James?
No, burn it. Burn it after Sunday, or after Super Sunday. I think we give too much credit to someone too early. It's just amazing to me. Purdy, he's been making great throws, solid throws, and that's all I've been hearing, which is fine. The one thing I'm worried about in this game is the Detroit secondary getting carved up. I mean, that's been a problem all year. They could stop the run. That's fine. Their linebackers are really good, but they can't defend the pass well. I think that's going to hurt them. The Lions might have to play catch up with the 49ers. And the one thing that really I think hurts the Lions' chances, and they're going to need some bounces to go their way. They're going to need some turnovers forced, but they're a really bad outdoor team. They have the luxury of playing indoors at Ford Field, but outside of there, they don't have a good record. I mean, they lost at Chicago that I could think of. They did win at Green Bay, but it wasn't as, cold.
They won in KC too.
Oh yeah, opening night, and that felt like a neutral weather site. It was still summer, so in the cold, Jared Goff never does well. But I know he's used to that weather, being from Central California, or the Bay, or wherever he's from.
Yeah, he's from, I think, Cal. I'm not sure where.
Because I know he went to Cal, so he should be good with this. Yeah. And just as Isaiah puts up, one of their offensive tackles are out. That's going to be a big loss, because their front line is really good. I know somebody was trying to rank, everybody's defensive line that who's left, and people kept saying Baltimore, but I think or they kept saying Detroit and Baltimore, but I still think the better names on San Francisco. I mean, it's Bosa, it's Armstead, it's Hargrove in the middle, and I just think that's too much to overcome. I thought, with Hargrove going over from Philly to San Francisco, I thought that was really going to give San Francisco a chance to not only get back to championship game, but get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. But I'm hoping that's not the case. But I'm going to go with the Niners. I feel like I know the spread was at 7, and that feels right.
Yeah.
I think they just have too much. And again, Detroit is a bad outdoor team in later years, I guess. Yeah. Like I said, Detroit would need some type of turnovers, forced. San Francisco would have to be without Deebo Samuel. They would have to give, just like the Packers, they would have to have a chance in that game if injuries or bad play went on by San Francisco. But yeah, I think the Niners are going to win.
All right. Well, let's just take a look really quick at the weather, because I know that the weather was kind of a factor last week in a lot of these games. So before we get into the AFC title game, folks, just take a look at that really quick. Sunday, there's going to be no effect in weather. It's going to be like 52 is a low, but it's going to be basically sunny for a lot of the game. So I say that should be good news for your Niners, knock on wood for that specific. Because you look at that last week with the Packers game, that was obviously a lot of decent, some rain, some wind. So that was obviously big there. All right, let's get to the AFC side. Oh, man, I had the Bills here instead of the Chiefs this whole entire time. Whoops. All right. So as I fix that, what do you guys think? I'll start really quick with Isaiah first. I mean, you have two teams, obviously, that have kind of been – you have the Ravens, obviously, who have been really the powerhouse team in the AFC for a lot of the season. They're going to get Mark Andrews back this week, guys. That's going to be obviously massive. That's obviously on top in terms of how great Isaiah Likely's been doing in that tight end game. Yeah, I mean, their running game's obviously been massive. Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham. I don't really feel like I've talked about the Ravens a lot this year, but it's just like you just kind of know in terms of what you're getting every single week. You're getting a great defense with guys like Patrick Queen, Smith, Marlon Humphrey. I mean, they just have guys left and right defensively, and then their offense is just absolutely clicking. I mean, Lamar Jackson right now is just playing at an all-time level. And he might be having his best season potentially this year at maybe any season that he's had. But the one thing that he's missing now is the Super Bowl, and that's essentially what he's motivated for at this point in time. Obviously, with the Chiefs, you can't really, like Isaiah, you mentioned, you can't, ever kind of take them out. They obviously remind me like an old Patriots team where it's like, they just kind of squeak in. It's just like, here we go again, right? So, they're here, but I think that the Chiefs they obviously know how to win as a playoff team, on the road after last week. So they're obviously going to another hostile environment. But you got Andy Reid, you got John Harbaugh going at it. That's obviously coach is going to be great. But I'm going to go Ravens. I just really like the way that this Ravens team has been playing. They're just playing really at an all-time level right now. It's going to take a lot for the Chiefs to win this one. And Isaiah, I was mentioning to James, obviously, I think you were off the air at this point in time. The Chiefs only had one first down. That's the whole entire game last week. And they won the game. So they're going to have to do a lot better with that. I think the first down they had actually was the last drive. They had their first down with Isaiah Pacheco. And that was pretty much it. So they're going to have to find ways to extend drives, right, to win the game. So I'm just going to go Ravens here. I think the line right now is at, I think, 3.5 that the Ravens are laying. So it's obviously a lot closer of a game right now. But yeah, I think it's going to go to, I'm going to say 27. It's going to be kind of like the Chiefs-Bills game. I think it's going to be kind of right around there. I'm going to go, give me 30-23 Rams. Isaiah, let you go first.
This is, besides Niners, Niners and Lions, I think is going to be a hell of a game. But this is going to be like an amazing game. Maybe even the game of the year because you have these two teams. They're so evenly matched on every side of the ball, from quarterback to both teams having really good tight ends to both teams' offensive line being great. Speaking of the Chiefs' offensive line, I don't know if you guys saw today, but there is a potential big blow where Joe Thuney, their guard, I believe, is not going to play in that game. So that is a big blow for KC. And then, both teams, wide receiving wise, Zay Flowers is a stud. Odell Beckham Jr. has simply found his form after the torn ACLs that he suffered in back-to-back years. And then the Chiefs, you look at their wide receivers. I don't really trust them, honestly. I think that Rice is all right, but they don't really have that game record that they used to have with Tyreek Hill. But they make up for it with Patrick Mahomes. Like Patrick Mahomes, like with all his talent, with what he could do, the magic that he can create, you don't have to be good to look like a great receiver. So and then both defense. Chiefs defense, I'm really surprised by how good they are. They have been really good this season. Ravens defense has been top notch for years. And then the coaching, John Harbaugh versus Andy Reid, two of the best coaches in the NFL going at it. It's going to be a fun game. I can't wait for it. Plus, it's in Baltimore too, which usually when the Chiefs and the Ravens play, it's been, I think, in Kansas City. So for me, until I see Baltimore with my own eyes beat the Chiefs, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I can't doubt the Chiefs, especially after last week. The Chiefs vanquished a lot of demons last week. And for some reason, when Lamar Jackson sees Patrick Mahomes on the opposite side of the ball, he looks like Sam Darnold out there. He looks like Sam Darnold saying, I saw a ghost. Like, I don't know what it is about Mahomes that just makes Lamar Jackson all of a sudden just forget how to play football. Like, it makes no sense. He starts turning it over so crazily. He is so fidgety. He doesn't really want to run the football, and he starts to try to get into a passing contest with Mahomes, which you're never going to win. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think the real reason why the Chiefs are going to win is because Lamar is going to continue his struggles against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs bottle him up in the run game. They force him to throw the football. I think he shows his inconsistent passing skills, and I think he throws a couple of interceptions in that game. So give me Kansas City to win. I'm going to go Kansas City 31-27. I think it's going to be a hell of a game, but I think the two picks that Lamar throws ultimately ends up costing the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, so you got a rematch of last year, Isaiah. What about you, James? Do you have the rematch of last year, or are you going to go with my side? James, you got you? I think
yeah, so I'm going to go. Damn it. Script says, hey, go Baltimore, San Francisco, like we've seen. But I can't, and
James is torn for sure.
Yeah, because what I want, is Baltimore to win, but Kansas City has that championship pedigree. Just something I know will overtake him to win the game. And I feel like that's going to happen with the Chiefs. I think they're going to win. Somehow, Ravens, they got the one playoff win like they should this year. But now they're facing, a storm that is Mahomes. And I can never doubt him, especially now because he has that win on the road in the playoffs. It just depends what the Raven defense does. Both defenses, when you think about it, I think it's going to come down to who will make the most defensive plays, who will force the most turnovers. Isaiah just mentioned with Lamar Jackson, if he makes those mistakes, the Chiefs are going to capitalize. That's why I feel like it's going to happen. but Baltimore somehow they have to court that offense that Kansas City has. I'm really interested to see how Baltimore's crowd is against the Chiefs. Hopefully they can force some timeouts or whatever. But I'm gonna go with Kansas City. As painful as it is, I had them and San Francisco going to Super Bowl all year long. So yeah, I'm going Kansas City. I just feel like they're gonna make the plays. The defense will come up clutch like they have pretty much all year long. Something's gonna go wrong with Baltimore. I just feel like it. So I'm gonna go Kansas City.
All right. We stay here in the NFL. Let's go to now the coaching carousel updates. And guys, just bear with me. Because obviously we have a decent amount, which we have some breaking news from today. So let's get into that really quick. So Jim Harbaugh, guys. Today he got announced that he's going to become the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, this is massive news for Chargers fans. This is obviously disappointing news for Michigan, but he obviously won a national championship. So it's obviously he's leaving off on a good note, and really happy for Charger fans because with what they had to do with Brandon Staley last year, it's obviously wasn't fun. The Patriots have officially had their new coach announced, offensively specifically, and that's Jerron Mayo. To essentially cap off the new era that has begun in New England. Vic Fangio today, he is essentially parting ways with the defensive coordinator role over in Miami, and he is set to join as the defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator over in Philly, according to Adam Schefter. Ben Johnson, he probably got fired from the Eagles. So they'll have to take a look in terms of what they want to do in Philly. It sounds like Nick Sirianni is going to stick around there. So that's good news for Eagles fans specifically, even though Eagle fans might disagree with me, but I think it's still good news. I think he's still a pretty good coach. The Patriots need a new offensive coordinator, as it's reportedly that Bill O'Brien's going to become the new OC at Ohio State. The two OCs that are reportedly in the mix right now are Nick Caley and Zach Robinson. The Titans have set to hire Bengals OC Brian Callahan to become their new head coach. The Falcons right now, obviously take Jim Harbaugh's name off the list. They have talked with Bill Belichick. They talked with Mike Vrabel today. They've also talked with, I think, hold on. Isaiah James, if you guys want to fill me in terms of other guys that they have tried to get, because they've been trying to go for anybody, to be honest, at this point. There's one guy that they've interviewed twice. I'm trying to remember who.
I think they interviewed Joe Brady too. That was one of the
Joe Brady. Yeah, so they've talked with Joe Brady. They've talked pretty much with all of them. They're essentially at like that desperate phase. All right, and then the Jags hired the former Falcons defense coordinator, Brian Nielsen. So there's obviously some more right now in terms of interviews as I've spoken with. Well, those are kind of the ones that I've kind of seen so far that have been kind of floating around. If there's other guys that you guys have seen that I didn't mention, feel free to mention, because obviously I probably missed one or two. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll go first in terms of what I feel. The Jim Harbaugh, obviously, that news today was absolutely amazing for Charger fans. And now you have the AFC West guys. You have Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and Jim Harbaugh. I mean, talk about, obviously we talked about when they got Devontae Adams and, they got all those pieces. Russell Wilson, obviously, it was going to be AFC West was the beast division, but I think it's going to be coaching wise. I think it's going to be loaded for sure. Oh yeah, James, I'm sorry, with your Raiders, you guys brought back Antonio Pierce too, as your head coach. So of course, I almost missed starting one already there. So. And obviously with the Jerron Mayo signing, I know Isaiah and I talked off the air, but I like it. Obviously just new blood. Of course, it's tough to move on from Bill. But not only we moved on from Bill, but we also moved on from Bill O'Brien. And I think that now we have like a new regime of the way we're going to use our offense specifically. And Jerron Mayo actually already said this week that we're going to be spending a lot of cash. So hopefully that's good news specifically for us in the offseason because we need a lot of help offensively, to say the least. And then let's just see. The Titans got Bengals. Obviously, Brian Callahan. I thought that was a pretty good move for them. Vic Fangio. I know Isaiah loves me some Vic Fangio. He seems like he's going to go to take Matt Patricia's job, which I think that would be pretty good for Eagles fans because I think anything is better than Matt Patricia as a defensive coordinator. So I would say that
too.
Yeah, I'd say that as a win. And then there's some other ones, kind of other news for coaches here and there. So, Isaiah, I'll let you go first. If there's anything else you want to talk about in terms of coaching carousel, by all means, feel free. If there's anything I also missed, feel free. But what do you think about all this stuff in terms of kind of the stuff I mentioned?
I think that this coaching cycle has definitely been the craziest coaching carousel that we have seen because there's a lot of big names. I mean, Nick Saban retired, Pete Carroll's out in Seattle, Bill Belichick. Like, it's going to be so weird if he takes the Falcons job to see Bill Belichick wearing a Falcons black hoodie with red sleeves. I saw something on Twitter the other day where someone said, like, Bill Belichick after 2 weeks in Atlanta, and it was like a GIF or it was like a video of a white guy just rapping in Atlanta or just rapping. Like it's just gonna be so weird just to see him in Atlanta if he does take that job. But, let me start with the big story of the day, and that was the major bombshell that I think everybody, right there, everybody wanted was that Jim Harbaugh is going back to the NFL. He's going to the Chargers. This is a perfect fit for the Los Angeles Chargers. Dean Spanos, everybody has criticized him for years for making foolish decisions after foolish decisions after foolish decisions and being cheap and not spending money. Dean Spanos got it right this time. He got it right. He swung big and he landed the big fish. And, as much as we mock the Chargers and as much as we tease the Chargers are actually going to be legit contenders now with Jim Harbaugh because they had a stacked team, right? They had Herbert, they had Austin Eckler, they had Keenan Allen, they had Mike Williams, Johnston, that receiver from TCU. He's really good. The defense with Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James in the back end. I mean, they have a lot of talent there. What they needed was structure and a winning culture and a great coach. And Jim Harbaugh is miles above Brandon Staley, and he's going to create that winning culture. I think this is like the most talented team he's had outside of maybe 2011, 2012 49ers. But the Chargers are going to be in the mix starting next season. And I think that with Herbert there, with Jim Harbaugh, I'd be interested to see who Harbaugh brings in as his offensive coordinator, because if they are running that, at Michigan, they were running that run-heavy offense, but you got Justin freaking Herbert. You don't need to do a run-heavy attack. You can do a pass-happy attack and throw the football like 40, 50 times down the football field, but I know Jim doesn't really like to run that style of offense. He's more of like that old-school power football, but he's never really had that potent of a quarterback like Justin Herbert. So with Jim Harbaugh there, with Justin Herbert there now, and also defensively, Ben and James, I got a sneaky suspicion that I think the Eagles hiring Fangio, I think that's going to fall through, because now with Jim Harbaugh in LA with the Chargers, if you're a big Fangio, right, do you want to coach the Eagles, or do you want to go back to coach with Jim Harbaugh with all that talent in Los Angeles? Like, if I'm Vic Fangio, I'm saying screw the Eagles talent. I'm going to LA to be with Jim Harbaugh and coach with the Chargers. Like, that's where I'm going. So it would be very fascinating to see where Vic Fangio does end up. I think that's definitely going to be the pivotal hire of this cycle. But I mean, they've got the talent. Now they've got the coaching, and I expect the Chargers to be in the mix next season with the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills and all the other top teams in the AFC vying for that AFC title. In terms of the other stuff, Bill Belichick, and I think, Ben, we talked off the air about this. If I'm Bill Belichick, I would not take the Falcons job. And I think he's holding out for Dallas. And I think that's the right move because Mike McCarthy is going to choke again in the postseason because that's what Mike McCarthy does. He won one Super Bowl like 10, 12 years ago. But that guy is essentially the Doc Rivers of football. And not trying to throw shade at Doc Rivers, Ben, but I mean, that's what Mike McCarthy really is. So Bill Belichick, if I'm Bill Belichick, the Falcons roster, I feel like it's a little bit better than New England's, but it's the same problem. You don't have a quarterback. And if you're Bill, do you really want to rebuild with a rookie quarterback? Although you have some good offensive weapons, you still have to rebuild the whole defense. If I'm Bill Belichick, take a year off, see what happens next year because the Jets could potentially open. The Giants could potentially open. Dallas potentially could open. Philadelphia potentially could open with Sirianni. If he might get fired, who knows? There might be like Buffalo could also potentially open if the Bills have another meltdown in the playoffs. So there's going to be a lot of jobs next season that I think could open up. And I think Bill Belichick would be foolish just to take this Atlanta job given all the other teams that have so much talent that could open up next season. I mean, imagine Bill Belichick coaching the Cowboys and that loaded roster with Micah Parsons. Like, that'd be insane. Or imagine Bill Belichick potentially coaching Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. I know Patriot fans would disown him immediately if he signed on to coach. Yeah, and then if I'm Bill, I wouldn't go to the Giants. Like, I know he coached with the Giants, but would you really want to saddle yourself your final years as a coach with Daniel Jones? Like, who wants to do that? No. So, and then Buffalo, I still think Buffalo could make a move because we haven't really heard anything about McDermott coming back. And there's been rumors that, Buffalo wasn't really happy with McDermott during this past season. So, obviously if Bill Belichick went to Buffalo, Patriot fans would be super upset with him if he went there. So if I'm Bill, don't take that Falcons job. Wait till one of these great jobs open up, and I think you'll have a great opportunity for sure. In terms of the other candidates, Antonio Pierce, sorry, James, I don't really like the hire. I think he's a great coach, he's a great guy. He's a raw type of coach. But there's something about interim coaches. When they get that interim tag removed, it just seems like the glow of the interim coach, it just wears off. Like, we've seen it in the past where these interim coaches, these players play hard for them, and then the interim tag gets removed, and then all of a sudden, it's like they stop trying. And I'd be interested to see who Antonio Pierce hires as his offensive coordinator. I think that's the big hire. But I don't know if that's going to work out or not. I'm kind of very wary about that. And the GM hire of the Raiders, I didn't like that. Like Tom Telesco, I mean, what did he do with the Chargers? I mean, the guy didn't really do anything with the Chargers roster. And then what else was there?
Brian Callahan.
Yeah. I mean, I like that move just because, he can help develop Will Levis. He's a guy that's an sharp offensive mind. I think that he'll be able to give young Will Levis some guidance for sure. And then Gerard Mayo, I think for me, before I said that I wasn't a big fan of it, but now with the moves that he's making, I'm starting to warm up to it just because if you look at the moves that he's making, before everybody thought Gerard Mayo's the head coach. Well, everybody thought he's going to bring back, Bill O'Brien or bring in Josh McDaniels and, the front office is essentially going to be the same. But if you look at what they're doing, I mean, they're interviewing people from the Shanahan tree. They're interviewing another defensive coordinator outside of New England. They're trying to get away from that Belichick way of doing things. And Gerard Mayo said today or a couple of days ago, that they're going to burn some cash, which is something that they never really did under Belichick. They never really spent a lot of money in free agency and was aggressive. So I kind of like what the Patriots are doing. They're establishing a new identity under Gerard Mayo, and I hope they continue it. I know, Ben, I was telling you this off the air that I hope what the Patriots need is they need to go get a guy from the Shanahan coaching tree or get someone from get someone from one of these offenses that are putting up a lot of points, because the Patriots need to modernize their offense. And I feel like that with them interviewing Zach Robinson, Nick Caley, that just shows they're willing to modernize the offense. And I still hope you guys bring in a GM from outside the organization that can help, really replenish this roster and bring in a new idea or identity of how to do things in the front office. But I'm starting to warm up to the Gerard Mayo hire because he's doing things his way. And the last thing I'll say about the coaching carousel is for Seattle, I'm surprised that Seattle hasn't interviewed Mike Vrabel yet. There's a lot of great coaches out there. I think Mike Vrabel would be a great coach in Seattle. They need a tone setter. They need a culture setter. And you need that star power coach to go along with in that division, because you have Shanahan, you have McVay. You got to have that star power coach to match up with those guys.
All right, James, what do you think about the carousel in terms of coaches that's been transpiring the last couple of days? Obviously, you want to talk about Antonio Pierce obviously coming back with you guys. I'm going to disagree in terms of Isaiah's feel. I like with you guys. I think that with Josh McDaniel is kind of a very stale, stagnant, and then obviously you look at some of the players obviously bringing some life and just new energy. I think that with him specifically, especially with them going to Kansas City and you guys pulling off that upset on Christmas Day, it's like, yeah, you might have not gone the full-on finished season that you guys want to, but I just saw it and I'm just like, that's a guy that I think a lot of players will want to play for. So I think that. So
go ahead.
What do you think in terms of the rest of this stuff? Because at least I was going to just get that to you because obviously you're a Raider fan.
Yeah, he was the only guy for the job. He was the only one to inject some life into this group of players. I mean, you had Max Crosby, going out there and saying, "Hey, I'm maybe requesting a trade if you don't bring back our guy." So that's how much Pierce is respected and loved by the players. We'll see how long that lasts. Obviously results have to do the talking on the field, so that's going to be very interesting. I really like that. I am so I don't know how to put this, but I am taken back by the hiring of Tom Telesco as a GM. The thing is, he did select really good players when he was with the Chargers. Mm-hmm. A lot of them did pan out, or a lot of them got hurt, or they didn't perform well, but he was able to get players either traded for them or there were some free agents. The only one that didn't work out was J.C. Jackson, but I felt like the Raiders, they've had so many bad signings and bad trades and bad draft picks that maybe a new idea needs to come in, a new person with new ideas. Because he has a good track record. So when I saw that today, I was iffy at first, but I thought, you know what? Maybe he can turn some of these players around, and then he can draft the right players. Because, the Raiders, they've had an awful time with their first-round picks, other from a couple. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because I just wanted to see how the roster will shape out. And then, you need a new offensive coordinator. For all the good that they did, it was mostly defensive. But offensively, again, you had that 3-0 loss against the Vikings, in which that was a game that you really needed to stay in the playoffs. But with Pierce, it was a great hire back, and there's no one else for the job right now because everybody is responding to him, and I think that's awesome. What I didn't think was awesome today was Jim Harbaugh. So, okay, I've been saying this for a while, especially this year. Staley needed to go after last season's playoff loss in Jacksonville. But it was kind of a circus with Harbaugh, after the championship game, because You heard like, oh, the passing of the torch is coming at a Michigan event or whenever it was. I thought it was just for like JJ McCarthy, going to the NFL, so there's going to be a new quarterback. I guess he was talking about going back to the NFL. And he did this with the Chargers. I mean, Spanos knows him from the days where he played in San Diego. So what I don't like about it, of course, is that, hey, now they're going to have an identity. Now they're going to have a type of style that he's brought to every location he's been with. Now they're going to have fight that they really haven't had. They've been such a finesse team, and this is kind of the ejection that they need to get going. I mean, you mentioned how the division is now. You had Sean Payton to it already with Andy Reid, and now Antonio Pierce. Now you have Jim Harbaugh. You have a plethora of great coaches, or at least with great mindsets that fit the teams well. So that's really good to see for the whole division. That's really good. Some things that also stood out to me with Vic Fangio leaving. I know they were banged up all year long, but there was one Dolphin that literally kicked rocks on Twitter today when the news came out about Vic Fangio. He literally went out of his mansion somewhere in Florida and kicked a pile of rocks away. So maybe they didn't like his scheme or something like that, but that was kind of shocking to me. And then Deuce Staley going to Cleveland as running backs coach. I didn't think he did a bad job in Carolina. I just thought it was a whole mess with their offense in general. But Cleveland, they have a great running back room every year, it seems like. So I really think that was good. I'm really shocked too, as I mentioned with Mike Vrabel. I know he went to go interview in Atlanta, and just like in Seattle, they need an identity shift where it needs to be more on the side of defense for Seattle. I mean, you can get anybody in there for OC that's good in the passing scenario, right? But you need someone that will fire up that young defense that they have, because they let a lot of games go this year, did the Seahawks, defensively. And that really hurt them down the line. So that was really shocking that he still hasn't had a coaching job. And then Joe Barry, I think there was just too much damage done. Even though he had a good, 3 weeks left of the season, his defense did well, but it just seemed like the scheme just never quite added up with the players that they had there. When you think about it, too, with the players, they pissed off Aaron Rodgers so many times getting players in the draft, but it was more defensive, right? But then they went out and signed all these free agents in 1 year, and it just never meshed well for them to be one of the best defenses. They were supposed to be, but never was. So that was a real shocker that never worked out. And then Joe Barry, I think, is just too much has been done. I'm really interested to see if Cliff Kingsbury gets that offensive coordinator job in Philadelphia. And then with Raheem Morris, I'm wondering if he'll get the head coaching job maybe down in Atlanta. I mean, that could fire up that defense. But you really need someone with a great offensive mind down there. They have all that talent. Like I mentioned, they have all that talent down there, but there was never a mix of everybody getting theirs. They definitely do need a quarterback as well. Shane Waldron going to Chicago as their offensive coordinator. Going from Seattle, I think that is a really good move. They really need someone that will work with, well, we don't know if it's going to be Fields. We don't know if it's going to be Caleb Williams. But he's a good sound mind. He does well with his offenses, that's for sure. I saw Brian Johnson got fired from the offensive coordinator job in Philadelphia. And maybe that was the problem the whole time. I mean, Jalen Hurts got hurt. and he got disinvolved with the team. It seemed like so a lot of things went wrong, and maybe that was just one of them. Other from that, it's just waiting. I can't even no, Ben. I'm not even thinking this. You know, when all these rumors about Belichick going to Atlanta, and all I could think about was, man, that one Super Bowl, right?
Mhm.
And then that meeting they had with Belichick, earlier this week or last week was like, okay, tell us how you beat us, how you came back 28-3. And Belichick, probably just, sits there. The lights go off, and he has his projector there.
Yeah.
He probably blew everybody's mind in that Atlanta room. It would be weird seeing him with the Falcons, but I'm kind of shocked that no one else has picked him up. I'm really shocked. Maybe it's teams staying away from him,
Yeah.
or maybe he's saying, "Hey, I still want to be, management and head coach."
Yeah.
Maybe some teams are staying away from that. So, but maybe Atlanta's just gonna bow down. Well, yeah, he should. He beat your team in that Super Bowl. But it's like, hey, yeah, how did you beat us, and how can we be like you? I'm trying to think. Okay, it feels kind of like, if Belichick does go to Atlanta, it would kind of feel like Johnny Damon, going from the Red Sox to the Yankees. It just wouldn't feel right because they beat him. So that's why I keep thinking about if Belichick does go to Atlanta, and I'm trying to remember if there's anybody else out there. But I'm kind of intrigued with that Seattle job. I hope they go more defensive for that head coaching job.
Yeah, and Isaiah, I know that you wanted to mention something real quick, but I was going to allude to James's point about Belichick is I don't think a lot of teams want to invest in a 72-year-old coach that's essentially playing at the back end of his career, essentially. You remember Brady too, right? Brady was 42 years old. Yeah, he's the greatest of all time as a quarterback, but you're thinking all these teams are going to go out for his services, and you only had the Chargers and the Buccaneers as the two teams that were looking for him after he was done in New England. Belichick, essentially, I don't think, between him being in charge, right, and just his age and a new era regime of, the sport, I just don't know in terms of how many teams are interested. I think that maybe like the teams are going to be desperate, right? I'd say maybe a team like the Falcons, right, are probably the team that's the most desperate. But like Isaiah was mentioning, I mean, Dallas, I thought was going to be the right fit. I still loved your rant, Isaiah, off the air about how Jerry Jones just was complete doofus, right? Essentially, of keeping McCarthy around because it made no sense. It really made no sense. They're essentially running it back, and they're going to do the same old crap next year. And we'll talk about Belichick potentially in Dallas next year. But I just don't know. I mean, James, I think you really pretty much hit the nail, though, with he's getting older, and I think he's going to have a lot of control. I just don't know in terms of how many teams want that at this case. All right, Isaiah, really quickly before we get to NBA, what did you want to kind of mention real quick?
Well, about the coaching carousel, I think the other takeaway that I had was number one, Jerry Jones deserves to be thrown into not a retirement home, but a mental asylum and gets his mind checked because, I mean, it literally makes no sense. Like, you said that this was the most painful loss that you've ever seen in sports. And then you said this is like the lowest of lows that I've ever experienced. And then you kept the guy that was a part of it and was the main culprit in it. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And especially when you have Belichick, Harbaugh, Vrabel available, who are miles better than Mike McCarthy, for you to not even talk to them. It just shows me that you shouldn't even be an owner of a franchise. Let alone the Dallas Cowboys. So I just think it's just ridiculous. I think that, and I was saying this off the air, I hope the Cowboys, Troy Aikman, Darren Woodson, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, I hope they're calling Jerry Jones and just be like, hey, dude, you have all these great coaches available. go talk to one of them and bring in Belichick if you actually want to win a Super Bowl. Because Belichick with that roster, I'm telling you right now, if Belichick had went to Dallas or next season, I would have picked the Dallas Cowboys to win the Super Bowl next season because that's what they need. They're like the Chargers. They need structure. They need discipline. That's what they need. They need great coaching. That's all they need. So I was kind of bummed by that. And then the last thing about the coaching carousel is if I'm Atlanta and if Belichick says no, I would steal Joe Brady from Buffalo and name him head coach because that guy with the offenses that he's ran, minus what he did in Carolina, because let's face it, nobody could have won with Teddy Bridgewater. No disrespect to Teddy Bridgewater, but nobody could have won with that team and looked good with that team. What he's done in LSU, what he's done in Buffalo, he's a tremendous offensive mind, and he reminds me of like a Kyle Shanahan or a Sean McVay, like that Knicks great, bright offensive coach. And if I'm Atlanta, I go and hire him to be my next head coach and try to steal him from Buffalo. That way, you either get a great offensive mind or that way you force Buffalo's hand. And if Brady does get a head coaching offer from, Atlanta, let's say, I can see McDermott being forced out just because the Bills will be like, no, we are not losing Joe Brady whatsoever.
All right. We have a comment here from Seth Johnson 40 said, Isaiah, do you fear Patrick Mahomes now? LOL. I know 3 years ago you said you didn't. I don't know, Isaiah, if you want to allude to that really quick, but you could obviously.
So the story about that is back when the Niners played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I did a show, I think. I don't know where I did it on, but I did a show saying I didn't fear Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. I thought the Niners were going to outright win, and Patrick Mahomes proved me wrong. He made me eat a big slice of humble pie at that time. So I do fear Patrick Mahomes, but hey, I got the GOAT on my team now, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Now, with that being said, let's go now to the NBA segment, guys. We've got a decent amount of NFL stuff, which it should be a lot of fun this weekend. But let's get to the NBA right now. And the big news, obviously, in the NBA world is now, yes, Doc Rivers has been hired from the Milwaukee Bucks. Adrian Griffin, I'm pretty sure that was his first name. He got fired yesterday by the Bucks after, the Bucks obviously have had a pretty good year. They obviously brought in Damian Lillard. They've obviously had some pieces there that, they're in second place right now in the East. But apparently there has been some players and stuff talking off the air, off the court, about his overall antics. He's a young coach. I think they wanted to bring in a coach specifically that's a veteran presence, that's won a championship. To me, I don't know specifically if, I love the move, right? I don't know if Doc Rivers is the same coach he once was. But I think it might be able to work, at least it's somebody that, I think a lot of players respect and they know about. James, what do you think about this move with the Bucks getting Doc Rivers?
Well, I just want to first talk about Adrian Griffin. The writing was on the wall in training camp, I believe it was, when Terry Stotts just ended up just leaving the team. And it was just based on, I think, a defensive scheme. And then also, after a while, the players went to Adrian and said, hey, we want to play like we did with Coach Bud. And that's when they really took off. And then, lately the defense has been really bad. And I know one person that controls what happens with the Bucks, and it's Giannis. I mean, you saw what happened in the offseason. When he said, when he was asked about his future in Milwaukee, he said, hey, if we're not doing anything or going after another big name, I might be out of here. And what happened? A week later, they get Lillard. So he controls it all. And there was a time, I think, last week where he subbed himself in. He didn't even talk to Adrian Griffin about that. He just walked right past him and subbed himself back in the game. So you can tell, even though they have that great record at 30-13, that just things were not going well, even in the first year of Adrian Griffin's first year. It happens. It does happen. Um, Maybe it takes a year or two, not in the same year, especially when you have a great record like you do, and like you mentioned, second in the East. But that was not a fit from the start. You could just tell. He always looked in a panic mode. Did Griffin on the sideline? That's what it seemed like. It seemed like he never had control of the team. The offense just took care of itself, but defensively they did not lock in. Whatever they had with Coach Bud was working better than what they had with Griffin. So I'm kind of not surprised by the move just based on what I heard and what has transpired so far from training camp. So getting Doc Rivers, getting Doc Rivers, first of all, I was really annoyed by the media yesterday because he was hired according to sources right away was Doc Rivers. And then an hour or two later, it's like, no, it's not official yet. He's only there as a consultant, to see of the coaching, who's going to be the coach. He's not the actual coach yet. And then today the news comes out he is. I really enjoyed him being part of the 3-person booth in on ABC. So it's weird, he was only doing that, just starting this season, and he was doing it well with Burke and Breen. I really like him as an analyst, but you could tell he wanted to get back into coaching. I think that was probably the first person that the Bucks called on, and that Giannis was convinced that could help him out. So I think he's going to lead them better. They're going to get better defensively. Maybe they have to make a trade or two. And remember this, though. When they traded Lillard, they traded Drew Holiday. So you traded defense for offense, okay? So this was kind of expected that the defense wouldn't be as good, but not like this, where you're giving up so many points a game, where you're bottom 5 in the defensive categories. So you came with that description in the offseason where it's like, hey, you're not going to be as good defensively, but you're going to outscore everyone. And in the East, I don't think that works that way. When Boston clamps down, when Philadelphia clamps down, you're going to have lower scores in the playoffs, right? So I think Milwaukee made a good move with this. Doc, of course, a veteran of the Eastern Conference, as you know. I think they'll be well, but they also have to get a little better defensively, and maybe they have to make some moves to get another defensive stalwart. But it just seemed like a bad mix with Griffin all year long. I was watching some of his post-game, speeches, and it kind of felt like a McDaniels vibe where there wasn't a vibe with the Raiders this year. It's like, hey, we got the win. Game ball goes to you. Let's come back and do this again next week. Blah, blah, blah. It kind of felt like that with Griffin all year, or so far this season with Milwaukee, but it's good. Maybe the players just didn't want to listen to him anymore, and it just shows the players have so much power now, especially someone like Giannis. He's going to get what he wants. So this is a good move, but I hope Rivers doesn't mess up what the Bucks have done. That's my only concern.
All right, Isaiah, what do you think about this move of the Bucks hiring Doc Rivers?
First off, I was shocked about Adrian Griffin getting fired because I didn't expect it. It came out of left field. And when I saw it, I was like, I thought he did something scandalous. I really did. I thought that there was something behind the scenes that we didn't know that he did that got him fired. I didn't think it was like, I didn't think it was like something to do with this on the court stuff. I thought it was like off the court type of stuff. But then I read more into it, and you could tell players just tuned him out. He lost the locker room, I think, like 15, 20 games into the season. And it was really shocking what had happened. And they just stopped listening to him. And honestly, I didn't think it was a good fit to begin with. You fire Mike Budenholzer, right? Veteran coach. I thought they were going to go get like a Nick Nurse or someone like that, Doc Rivers, to be their coach. And then they end up getting Adrian Griffin, who had no coaching experience whatsoever, or head coaching experience, to be their new head coach. So it's kind of a weird fit, like James mentioned. But you could tell Giannis didn't want to play for him. Other guys on the team didn't really want to play for him. I know him and Bobby Portis had like a really heated argument a couple of weeks ago. So that probably played a factor into it. But my thinking is, okay, so you fire Coach Budenholzer, right? And then you want to run the stuff that you want to run with him. Then why did you even get rid of him? Like, it makes no sense. Like, I know the public was pressuring you to get rid of him because of, like, that you lost in the playoffs in an embarrassing fashion. But if you're wanting to run his stuff, then why did you get rid of him? It makes no sense. But about Doc Rivers, I'm kind of sad, Ben and James, because I kind of wanted him on the Lakers as my Lakers head coach. That was the guy that I really wanted to replace Darvin Ham. But for the Bucks, I think they're getting a great coach. I think Doc Rivers gets a bad rep. I know he always chokes postseason games, but I mean, the guy can really coach basketball, and he's a really good defensive coach, and he's able to coach stars. And I think that's a good thing. If you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, is Adrian Griffin, I feel like, should have started out with like the Charlotte Hornets or some other team that is good for player development. He's not a guy that I feel like would be able to command the respect of stars. So that's why I think he didn't work out. But Doc Rivers, whatever Doc Rivers says, Giannis is going to listen. Damian Lillard is going to listen because he's got a championship ring. He's been there, done it, and he's coached multiple stars like Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin. So he knows how to command the locker room, and I think that's what the Bucks need. So I think it's a great hire for Milwaukee.
All right. So without further ado now, and best of luck to Doc Rivers, by the way. Hopefully it works out for them. Just as long as it's not against my Celtics. That's the one thing I will say. Let's go to team reports, guys, now. And obviously, you guys, Isaiah and James, you guys' teams played each other last night. I obviously didn't get the chance to watch this game, but it looked like the Clippers, James' team, won 127-116. Leading the way was Kawhi Leonard with 25 points. D'Angelo Russell. And Isaiah, I know that people have been talking about D'Lo's rap, kind of saying, he might get traded here and there in the next couple weeks. And I don't know if it's essentially, something turned on or whatever, but he's playing really good ball lately. Maybe he's just been hearing a lot of the news. But going now to our team reports, I'll start with you, Isaiah. And obviously, you mentioned to me about the Darvin Ham who's off the air. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not. But without further ado, Isaiah, I'll let it go to you to start the team report. How do you feel about the Lakers right now? Right now in the Western Conference, they are 22-23. I mean, they're still the play-in tournament, when they brought that in the last couple of years, it's really helped a lot of these teams that are kind of right now 500 ever kind of stay within reach. So yeah, they're ninth right now in the play-in, and they could try to make maybe a move at the deadline. So I know we'll talk about some deadline stuff in a little bit, but how do you feel about your Lakers with it now being January 25th? We're almost, I guess, to the trade deadline, which is February 8th.
I'm purely disgusted. The Lakers, the problem with the Lakers is they can beat bad teams, and that's fine, but they can't beat the good teams. I mean, they can't even beat the mid teams. Last night against the Clippers, that was like the effort defensively was just awful. I know I did a video on my personal page where I ripped the Lakers to shreds after the first half because they gave up 77 points, Ben. The Clippers were shooting 63% from the field. They had wide open layups and threes almost every possession of that first half. It was embarrassing. I know LeBron wasn't playing, but still, LeBron wasn't playing, but LeBron doesn't make up for everything defensively. Darvin Ham, guys, is supposed to be a quote-unquote defensive-minded head coach. Where was the defense yesterday? Where was the defense? They made James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. I thought we were playing the 1996 Chicago Bulls out there with how great they were shooting the ball. Like, everybody was open. Everybody was dunking. Everybody was getting open threes. It was like, are you guys even trying, or did you guys just give up? Like, it was just flat out embarrassing what happened. I know the Lakers, they fought. They climbed back into it late. I give them credit for that. D'Angelo Russell was tremendous. My guy Austin Reeves was getting cooked all night long. It was, oh my God, I was watching it. Kawhi had moments where he was just like, give me the ball. I want to go against Reeves one-on-one. I can cook him easily. Paul George, same thing. James Harden, same thing. Poor Reeves was just getting cooked all night. But, everybody else just defensively was just awful. And, they had to climb out of a massive hole that they set themselves in the first half because they couldn't guard anybody. But they did manage to fight. But, down the stretch, Kawhi took over. Paul George took over. James Harden took over. The Lakers just didn't have anything going because for some reason, I don't know why this is the case with the Lakers, but Anthony Davis, who's your superstar, he was out on the perimeter. It's like, bro, get your behind in the paint and get the ball and just dominate in the paint. You have a guy in Mason Plumlee and Amir Coffey, and I think there was one other guy that was guarding you. Zubac was out for this game. I don't understand why AD just didn't just say, hey, give me the ball in the paint and let me dominate against these undersized guys. Like, it just made no sense whatsoever. And then the thing that I really was mad at about the game, it wasn't even about the players or the action on the court. It was about, so James, I don't know if you watched the game. I don't know if you saw this part, but Cam Reddish stepped on James Harden's ankle and he got hurt like bad. He was on the floor. He couldn't move. The Clippers were running up and down the court, and Darvin Ham, for some reason, fellas, had Cam Reddish going like this, like hopping on one foot up and down the court for 2 possessions. Dude, you have 3 timeouts. Call it. Your player, the poor guy was just on the court, like hopping up and down the court. He could barely walk the whole time, and Darvin Ham just made Cam Reddish just suffer on the court.
Bad.
Like, what are you doing, dude?
That's insane.
Cam Reddish himself had to signal to the ref timeout for him to get off the court. He was like, what are you doing, Darvin? Like, I looked at him. I was like, dude, the poor guy, man. He was just hopping up and down the court. He couldn't move. There were times where he had to just sit back down on the floor, and Darvin Ham just still didn't call timeout. You're the head coach. You're supposed to protect your players. You're supposed to defend your players. And for you to not even call a timeout when your player is clearly hurt, he can't move. It was just awful. And now we find out today that Cam Reddish is going to be out for a bunch of time due to a severe sprained ankle. Like that was the part that pisses me off. And I think it should piss the players off because it shows you that the coach doesn't have your back. And I saw the report today that Darvin Ham is safe for the rest of the year. Well, I don't know what you're going to do now because, like the guy obviously, like literally every time I see him on the court, he's just sticks his hands in his pocket and he just stares out into space like nothing's going on. I mean, it's just like there's no emotion with the guy. He acts like he's daydreaming all the time. Like, I mean, there's just the Laker team. They need to make a trade. I agree with you, Ben. They need to make a trade. They need to get a DeJounte Murray or a Zach LaVine to help wake him up. But they need to defend. That's what they need to do. And if they don't defend, then they're not going to go anywhere. I mean, you can't be giving up 77 points in the first half to any team if you want to have success. So the Lakers play the Bulls coming up. I wish Zach LaVine was still playing in that game. He's going to be out for, I think, 1 or 2 weeks. But, that would have definitely been a great game. But, the Lakers, I can see the Lakers losing, Ben, just because they played the Nets on Friday, and the Brooklyn Nets lost 9 out of 10 going into that game. They even lost to the San Antonio Spurs, who are one of the worst teams in the NBA, and somehow, someway, the Lakers gave up 125 points, and let the Brooklyn Nets shoot 55%, and they let a guy named Cam Johnson, I think his name is. Like, I've never heard of him before. The guy had 30 points in that game. Like, dude. And that's what's really infuriating about the league. No, scratch that. They didn't give up 125 points. They gave up 130 points to the Brooklyn Nets. And they let this dude named not Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, who I've never heard of before this game.
He's pretty good.
The guy had 33 points out there. Nick Claxton, their center, he had 22 points. Guy made 4 threes in that game. Like, the defense is just nowhere to be found right now, and I don't trust the Lakers going up against the Bulls. I don't trust them. They play after the Bulls. They play the Warriors and Steph Curry. Oh, my God. They might give up 150 against the Warriors and that hot shooting team. And then they play the Rockets. Then they play the Hawks. And then they play, Ben, your Boston Celtics at TD Garden on February 1st. They play the Knicks after that. Buckle up. It's about to be a long road trip for the Lakers if they don't defend.
Isaiah, James, before we go over to you, did you see, speaking of Darvin Ham, did you see that LeBron James, when they were up by a lot against the Blazers, he subbed himself out and Darvin Ham came out?
Saw that.
Like, that just absolutely, like, their sense of that pretty much just tells you they're tuning them out. And just hearing that story about how Cam Reddish essentially was on the court just limping like that, that's just messed up. Like, you're the coach. You're supposed to do your job. And, like, I'm a Celtics fan, so, like, I shouldn't feel bad for the Lakers, but I'm like, man, like, if the Lakers wanted to be a lot better than they are, it's coaching. I mean, the guy is just absolutely awful. He cannot coach. All right, James, we're going to you now. The other LA team who's been kind of riding high as of late. They obviously had a massive one against the Lakers last night, which you guys pulled out. You guys actually play the Celtics on Saturday, so best of luck. It should be a really fun game. This is our second time we face you guys this year, because obviously we played you guys in LA, I think last month. But yeah, no, Russell Westbrook off the bench has been great for you guys. Harden is obviously doing his thing, Paul George. If those guys stay healthy, James, obviously because I know in the past they've had some of their questions with like low management and injuries, that's a team to be reckoning with for sure in the West. I mean, you guys are playing really, really well. It's been consistent too. So what's your overall thoughts about the games?
Yeah, let me first get to that whole situation with LeBron subbing himself out. I was watching more video about Giannis, and he was doing this all season long with Adrian Griffin. And like I said earlier, it feels like the league is just player driven. They control everything to the point where there's just no respect toward the head coach or anybody like that. It seems like it's only in the NBA now, and it's getting worse. It's something, just the league, it's a bad look for it. You don't really see that with Harden and the Clippers. I know at first they had a little rough patch just trying to get it all working. And, their 28-14 record, I'll definitely take it because it didn't start off as well. But with the Clippers, they've won 6 out of their last 7, 3-game winning streak against Oklahoma City, Brooklyn, and the Lakers. Paul George is doing his thing. Leonard and Harden fitting in well. Again, Westbrook, definitely the important key, sitting on the bench, being that anchor. for the Clippers. No pun intended, or pun intended. So it was really, really good to see that, and it's worked out. Now, the Clippers go on their last Grammy trip ever because, the arena that they play in for now, they're going to have an award show there. That means the tenants have to leave. The Kings, the Lakers, the Clippers. So they go to Toronto starting on Friday. Saturday against the Celtics, I'll be watching. Oh, no. Crap. I got to work. I don't think I'll try to watch that. And then they go to Cleveland, Washington, Detroit, Miami, Atlanta before they come back in February, back home. So this is always a tough stretch of time going on the road, but hopefully they can stay together and just play good basketball like they've been doing. They're really cohesive from what I've seen. The only problem is, to me, and Isaiah mentioned it, with defense. The Clippers have given up, let's see, in their last 8 games, they've given up more than 100 points. I know it's a chore. I mean, it's a chore to give up less than 100 points. But when you're giving up 117, 120, 119, 114, 116, you're just outscoring people. But you just want to take care of those individual battles defensively a little bit better. Double team if you have to. But that's tough against a Celtic team that the Clippers will play against because they have all the scoring options. So that's going to be very tough, especially Porzingis. I can't wait to see how Zubac fits in defensively against the Celtics on Saturday. So if you're watching that, check that out. Yeah, just good cohesive right now. Cohesiveness. The Clippers are top 4. So I'll definitely take that, considering how the season started. I don't think they have to make any moves. I know the last few years, Clippers have been known to make some head-scratching moves at the deadline, at the All-Star break or at the trade deadline. This year, they just need to stand pat and keep doing what they're doing. This is the year to do it, to win it all. So next year, they're going to have some questions on the roster. They're going to move into their new Intuit Dome, which I hope to go to one day. The dome, the seating, it looks like, I don't even know. It looks like if you're sitting up high, it looks like you're looking straight down at everything. If you have a fear of heights or something, it isn't the place for you. So that's next year, but hoping that the Clippers can get through a West that is still pretty tough, but it's young tough when you think about it. You have Oklahoma City, Minnesota, but Denver's still there. Phoenix is still there. Yep. We're waiting for others to get into the mix of things. Whoever comes out the play-in tournament. But the Clippers are holding their own, and I'm really happy about that. I'm happy that Harden hasn't broken up the team, so to speak, just yet. I think Kawhi still has a stranglehold on the leadership of the team, quiet leadership. But yeah, I'm content with what the Clippers are doing right now, knowing though that there's more to come.
Definitely, 100% agree. And I was actually just looking at the Clippers too, James. They actually have the best home record in the West.
That feels good.
Yeah, they're 19-4 at home. They are 9-10 on the road, but to think that they have the most home wins at home, obviously home court is massive. So you should feel pretty good about that. Now, in terms of my team, I should feel pretty good in terms of my team. They've been fairly consistent a lot this year. They actually just had their first home loss to the Nuggets last week, which I don't know if you guys got the chance to watch that game. But they were at around 20. Yeah, they were 20-0 going into that game at home, and they lost by 2 to Denver, which they were up by 10 at halftime, and then the Jays really didn't play great, on their terms. Tatum had right at the end, he missed a fadeaway to to finish it off. So it sucked, but it was bound to happen at some point. But they lose that one, but then they go on the road and they have a back-to-back. They go to Houston on the Sunday. This past Sunday, they win 116-107. It wasn't a great win by any means. I thought that the Celtics just kind of went through the motions. They didn't play great. But then the next night, back-to-back. Remember the last time they had the back-to-back, they got blown up to Milwaukee. So I was really curious to see how they were going to do and bounce back. And they played really, really well. And the bounce back, obviously Tatum against Luka. Of course, a lot of people have those comparisons. Those two guys, and both guys played well. Tatum had 39, Luka had 33, Kyrie had 23, and Jalen had 34. But yeah, the team is just obviously playing really well. It's cohesiveness, like I say, it's probably the best five in basketball starting wise. Obviously bias aside, but I think that the bench might need some help and might need some work. I know Brad Stevens has talked about some potential guys maybe off the bench they could take a look at. And I have some names I might be thinking about too, which I'll probably talk the next couple of weeks. But yeah, now they have blowout today on my end. They're going to Miami, so obviously that's a place where I know fairly well in the playoffs. It's obviously a very tough place. And thinking enough too, the last time the Celtics were in Miami was Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals last year with the Derek White putback when they were down 3-0, which at the point I'm like, is this really going to happen? Just for myself to get heart shattered in Game 7 back in Boston. But yeah, I remember obviously that moment as kind of a high. So hopefully we kind of have a good, playing against Miami. Then we have James's Clippers at home. We actually have a homestand coming up after Miami, which is kind of nice. We have the Clippers. Then we have the Pelicans on Monday. Then we have the Pacers on Tuesday. The Pacers just got Pascal Siakam. So actually, I do want to talk a little bit about that, guys, about how you felt about the Pascal Siakam stuff, because we're going to kind of start talking about some of the trade deadline stuff coming up. And I know there's some guys that are already now on the move. And then we have Isaiah. We have your Lakers. And then Marcus Smart was supposed to come back on the 4th on February, but he's not going to play. Unfortunately, he's hurt, but he will be in the building. So that'll obviously be nice. And then they have the Hawks, and then they have the Wizards before they actually go back to Miami on Super Bowl Sunday. So that's kind of the Celtics, kind of their next games coming up, which should be really fascinating to see for sure. There. All right, guys, let's talk about some offseason stuff. Not offseason. I keep talking offseason. Trade deadline stuff. I know the offseason for NBA will be pretty soon, not too much longer. I look at the more football specifically. But Pascal Siakam to the Pacers. They obviously, I believe, the Raptors got Bruce Brown, and they got 3 first-round picks. I'm pretty sure that's kind of the way it happened. I thought that was a great move for the Pacers, and I think they're going to probably keep Siakam for the next couple of years. That just obviously adds more in terms of just the arms race in the Eastern Conference. I think they're probably going to be in like the 4 or 5 seed type of mix. They're probably going to be kind of right where the Knicks are and stuff like that. I think the top 3 right now is probably Boston, Milwaukee, and I think Miami. I really do. I think that the addition of Terry Rozier, I really like their coaching more than Philly. I know Joel Embiid's been on an absolute torrid pace this year. He's averaging 35, 36 points a game, just had 70 points the other night. So Philly obviously is going to be there, but I like Miami with them been playing, and Cleveland too. I think Cleveland, Indiana, and the Knicks are kind of in that 4 to 6 range. But I'll start with you, James. How did you feel about Pascal Siakam to the Pacers?
Well, it was a move that the Pacers felt like they had to make in order to get to the top of the East, or at least top 4, if they wanted to do it. And they felt like they had Houseburden going, and then this just adds to their Miles Turner. This just adds to their chances. I still think it's not enough. With the other 3 teams, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Boston, it just still feels like they're outside looking in if they want to get to the conference finals. And then I know me and Isaiah were talking about this last week, where it feels like, man, that's a lot to give up for a rental if it is the case, if he doesn't stay. And he's going to test the market with Siakam. 3 first rounders, Bruce Brown, I think eventually will get moved before the deadline, no doubt about it. So I feel like Pacers, they're just going for it, and I guess maybe they feel like, hey, maybe we can find a gem in the second round of those years. You could tell though that the Raptors, this is pretty much their last piece of that 2019 that really means something. I think they have one more player left from that 2019 team, but from that, everybody else is gone. When you think about it, Van Fleet left last year after last season. Kawhi right after. Lowry's gone. There's another one out there. Oh yeah, Norman Powell traded away a couple of times. So with the Raptors, the thing is, those first round picks, I hope it works out for them because they need to really build up their team. They're putting everything on Scotty Barnes and hoping that they can build around him. He can get points anytime he wants, it seems. He's going to be their anchor for years to come. But they need to build around him. So I think it was a great trade for Toronto, knowing that they got what they could. And 3 first-round picks really isn't that bad.
Definitely. All right, Isaiah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if they don't re-sign him, then the Pacers got screwed because they gave away basically their future to get this guy. But if they do re-sign him, the Pacers, I think, just elevated to one of, I wouldn't say the contender for the East title, but they're like in the boat like the Cavs and the Knicks, where they could get to the Eastern Conference with Pascal Siakam. Rick Carlisle's a great coach. He's got, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner there. They have a really fun offense, and it just adds to it with Pascal Siakam. But then you just look at the team that they're going up against, right? I think they can definitely make it interesting in the first and the second round. But can they beat Boston or Milwaukee? I think they need at least one more star to be able to be at that level, but it definitely gets the Pacers up to potentially getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I like this trade. It definitely makes the East a lot more interesting. And for the Raptors side, I mean, you get 3 first-round picks. They're probably going to trade more players. They've already traded OG and Anunoby, and they've already traded Pascal. They probably will trade more players. But it just goes to show you that, in the NBA, nothing stays forever. And sadly for the Raptors, I mean, that championship team that they had like back in 2019, it was only like 4 or 5 years ago. It's, it's nowhere. I mean, it's gone now. So, it's really sad. But for the Pacers side, I really like this trade, but they have to re-sign him or else that whole trade will be for nothing because you only get him for half a year. You trade away 3 first-round picks. It will not be worth it if you trade 3 first-round picks for half a season of Pascal Siakam.
Call me crazy, but the Raptors kind of core remind me kind of the Red Sox 2018 core. So it's just like the remainder guys. You have Chris Sale, right? He's obviously in Atlanta. Rafael Devers is the only guy left. And like the way that the Red Sox have been essentially their ownership, which we'll talk about another time. Obviously, probably not tonight, but oh my goodness. We're like the A's now. I'll just essentially get that out there now. I just can't right now with it. All right, what we can still talk about though in the NBA is the recent news of Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier, obviously, the Hornets are essentially sellers, and they got Terry Rozier is going to the Miami Heat. I love this move for the Miami Heat. Obviously, I hate it. Obviously, as a Celtics fan, but I love the fit there. They're trying to get Damian Lillard in the offseason. They're trying to get Bradley Beal in the last couple of years. This was a guy I think that could play in the system. He's hungry. He's a shift 3. Actually, I think had his debut tonight against the Grizzlies. I don't know how he did, but we'll hopefully see him tomorrow when they play the Celtics. Just I think a really good player for them. They got Kyle Lowry to go to Charlotte. I think they really just want to offload that contract, and he's going to probably be a buyout candidate at the deadline. So I'll go to you, James, first. No, I'll go to Isaiah because I asked James about the Siakam first. Isaiah, how do you like the Terry Rozier move to the Miami Heat?
I like it for both sides. The Heat didn't have to give up a lot to get him. Terry Rozier is a very underrated player. He's a tremendous scorer. But the problem with him is
Mhm.
he's like D'Angelo Russell. He has his highs and he has his lows. And when
Oh
he has
yes,
his
definitely.
lows, oh my God, look out. He will be Brick City for sure. But I mean, he's definitely a really good scorer. I know tonight he only had 9 points in the game, but he's averaging 23 points a game, shooting 45% from the field, 35% from three. He gives them another great
Is
scorer, but
Isaiah, really quickly, if you don't
yeah.
mind, how many minutes did he play? Because obviously sometimes your debut, obviously don't play all the time, a lot of minutes.
Uh, he played 29, and he really struggled
Okay.
shooting the ball tonight. He was 3 of
Okay.
11 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. But I mean, it's his first game. I think he'll be better, definitely. But, um, you know, it kind of he does kind of remind me of D'Angelo Russell in that way that they're both inconsistent. But I mean, they didn't give up a lot to get him. I mean, they got rid of Kyle Lowry, which was good. And I heard my Lakers are interested in Kyle Lowry, potentially if he gets bought out. So if we make a trade for DeJounte Murray, right, then he could be the perfect backup point guard, and take Gabe Vincent's spot. But I like it for the Heat. I think it definitely helps them. Um, I don't know if it helps them get by Boston, but they'll definitely need his scoring against Boston with Tyler Hero and with Jimmy Butler, so that'll definitely help. But also for the Hornets, it helps them too because he was taking the ball away from LaMelo Ball, and now you let LaMelo Ball be the primary guy to run the offense, like the Suns let Devin Booker back in the day, or the Warriors let Steph Curry, which he will excel at. So I think LaMelo Ball will just continue to shine. And I know I said a couple of years ago that I think LaMelo Ball will be the face of the NBA in 4 years. I mean, he's definitely playing really well ever since he came back from the ankle. And I think that ever with the Rozier trade, it's just going to give him more opportunities to distribute or to get to the rim or shoot. So I like the trade for both sides.
What about you, James? What do you think of the Terry Rozier move to Miami?
I think it was a definite uh, call for Miami to get younger, especially at the guard position. We know Lowry can score. He can defend pretty well. He can flop really well too. But I think in Miami, that culture, they were just looking for someone to be more explosive. They might be a little worse now defensively, but I think they're just going to try to outscore everyone. That's all I can think about it. And with Rozier, all you can think about is hey, he'll give you those numbers definitely off the bench. Um, I don't know if they're going to. No, I don't think they'll start him. I think he'll come off the bench. But yeah, I just think that Miami wanted to get younger, and they did that. Pretty even trade, but Kyle Lowry, this definitely opens him up to go somewhere to a contender out there. I'm interested to see. Uh, I don't know where, uh, but yeah, for Miami, this is really good. I think they had enough of Lowry.
All right. I think the last thing we'll do for this segment before we possibly call it a night, I do obviously want to talk some players for Trade Buzz. So we're gonna do a little game. I'm gonna obviously float you guys some players that I've essentially been seeing on the trade block reportedly, and essentially, you're gonna tell me if they're gonna stay or they're gonna go, beyond the deadline. So we'll start with Zach Levine. That's kind of the name I think a lot of people have been talking about. Obviously, Isaiah's been harping him like crazy. So I'll ask him
God,
first, at least for me. So I think Zach Levine will be traded. I think that the Bulls are going to do everything that they can to move off of his contract. I think that the Bulls essentially, um, he's been kind of Zach Levine's been kind of hurt, and I think he's probably is hurt, but I think he's trying to keep his body rested for whoever team that's like a contending type team. Um, I think he just wanted to, play. And if there is a specific team that I could see, I think it's the Lakers. Just I think that that's the only team that really would want him. So I'd probably just go with that, and maybe that gives the Lakers possibly a spark too. Maybe that's another reason. I mean, Darvin Ham might be coaching the rest of the season, but I think Lakers might get another star too, so he might not have to do as much there. So yeah, I would say Zach LaVine goes, and then guys, if throughout my list, if say some guys that you think are gonna go, if there's a spot, to kind of float out, you can let me know too. So I think Zach LaVine does go, and I think the Lakers are gonna be the same for him.
Yeah, Ben, I completely agree. Like, I've seen a lot of reports saying like the Lakers Levine thing is dead. It's not going to happen. Here's the thing: Rob Pelinka works in silent. You never really hear like the rumored player that they'll get until they actually get him. Remember with D'Angelo Russell, nobody really saw that coming until it actually happened. So, I don't really buy a lot of this DeJounte Murray thing. I think it's just kind of like, the Lakers throwing out there just to kind of not have anybody or try to drive the price down on the Bulls for Levine, and also just not to have a lot of teams be in the bidding for Levine. So I think it's going to happen. I think the Bulls are desperate to trade him. I think that they're going to be so desperate that they're only going to take like D'Lo and maybe Rui Hachimura just to match salaries, and Jalen Hood-Scafino are 2023rd or first round pick from this past year's draft, and a first round pick to get him. I don't think it'll take Reeves. I don't even know if we'll take the first round pick because the Bulls are going to be so desperate, because there's reportedly that there's nobody that is interested besides the Lakers to try to get him. So I think he's going to be traded. I think he's going to go to LA. The Bulls play the Lakers coming up on Thursday. So the Bulls GM is going to be in the building. Rob Pelinka is going to be in the building, so maybe they'll talk. And LeBron, like Zach LaVine, they were spotted, hanging out with each other. Zach LaVine is signed with Clutch, so that's a match. And Zach LaVine has been spotted with Rich Paul, the owner or the agent of LeBron, going to like many college basketball games recently. So I think it's going to happen. And I think he goes to the Lakers, and the Lakers get that third star that we've been harping on.
All right, James, what do you think of Zach LaVine? Does he stay or go?
Well, right now there's no market for him because of his ankle injury. So I'm not sure, but the others around the Bulls, I think, are all expendable. I guess the Lakers would be the only spot for him whenever he does get healthy.
Okay. Next guy we'll have is DeJounte Murray. The Hawks are kind of in that situation where they probably can sell some pieces, and I think Murray's been kind of a name that's been out there. For me, I think he's going to go, guys, and the team, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Wow.
I think that the Sixers are going to get a guy, a ball handler, and a facilitator that could help with Joel Embiid. Kind of like the Harden Embiid thing, but kind of a little bit younger in a way. And yeah, I think that he stays in the Eastern Conference, but I think that Murray and Embiid would be a great duo together. So I got Murray to Philly. What about you, James?
Man, I just keep seeing the Lakers. They're discussing a pick swap as well as with those trade negotiations. So I guess it comes down to that. I mean, basically, you could plug him into almost any contender. Not really Oklahoma City, I don't think. And Minnesota doesn't have assets. I know eventually those two, Trae Young and Murray, just weren't going to work out together, I guess.
I've been hearing the Knicks too a little bit.
Yeah. But I feel like they got what they needed with OG out of newbie.
Right.
They just need another impact player. But I don't think Murray would be a good fit with New York. So I'll say just nothing for now for Murray.
Okay, what about you, Isaiah?
This might be the blockbuster of the night. I think he gets traded, and I think he gets traded to a team that not a lot of people are talking about, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, you've been hearing some rumbles. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell not working together well. Both are really good offensive players. Defense is very lacking. DeJounte Murray is a really good offensive player and defensive player. So I think he gets traded to Cleveland for a package, fellas, that includes Darius Garland going to Atlanta. And you'll have Trae Young, Darius Garland, and in Cleveland, you will have Donovan Mitchell and DeJounte Murray as your backcourt, which will be a sweet backcourt both offensively and defensively.
Okay, the next guy is going to be Lauri Markkanen from the Utah Jazz. There's been a lot of talks around Markkanen for a while. I think, guys, that he's going to stay in Utah. I think that there's not a lot specifically. There might be some teams that might be calling him, but I think that he's going to stay with Utah and have an extension there, actually. I'll go to you, Isaiah. What do you about Lauri Markkanen?
There's really not a lot of suitors for like a dominant big like him. You know, the Thunder, I was going to say the Thunder, but they have Chet Holmgren. They could use another big, though, because they do need, I feel like Chet's better as a power forward than a center. But there's really not a lot of like suitors for him. I think he stays in Utah. I don't really think there's a market for. I mean, there's gonna be interest, obviously, but teams are gonna have to give up a lot for him, and he's a really good dominant player. So, and I don't think he would want to go to like a mid team, which is kind of like what Utah is. So I think he stays in Utah, and maybe they work something out.
All right, James.
I think he stays.
All right. The next guy is going to be D'Angelo Russell, Isaiah, your old friend D'Lo. Does D'Lo stay or does he go? For me, oh man, I'm gonna go. He goes, and he goes in that package with Zach LaVine. I think he's gonna go to Chicago. You know, they're not really playing for much anymore. The Bulls are at this point in time. They're really not in a race at this point in time, and I think that he can get his money, and then he might be able to get a payday somewhere else after the remainder of the year. So I would have him going to Chicago. James, what do you think?
I'm gonna agree with you. Yeah, he's definitely part of any big trade the Lakers do, and I think that LaVine trade is gonna go there. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that.
All right, Isaiah.
He's going to go to the Bulls in that deal for Zach LaVine. They have to deal him to the Bulls because, you know, the money just won't match. So I think he goes there. Plus, his play recently has helped his trade stock. I think the Bulls will be getting a really electrifying scorer. Plus, a guy that can pass the ball. I mean, I think the Bulls, what they're missing is a point guard. I mean, Lonzo Ball, when they had him healthy, with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, I mean, they were rolling. And they've had a primary playmaker. They need a primary playmaker. That's D'Angelo Russell. He needs to be the guy with the ball. And I think with him and DeRozan, I feel like that's a better mix than LaVine and DeRozan. So I got him going to the Bulls in that package. And also, fellas, not only do I have Zach LaVine coming to LA, I have Lonzo Ball coming to LA as well, and the Lakers taking on that big contract and putting him on like that injury exemption thing, whatever that they have. And I think they'll do that. And you know, Lonzo coming back next year, it might work because you need a point guard with LeBron. I know you have a lot of point guards, but he could be the backup point guard if he ends up being healthy.
You know, I was just thinking, if D'Angelo Russell's your point guard, you're never going to get the ball from him. So you better just have Kobe White be the ball handler in Chicago if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. All right, next guy's going to be Malcolm Brogdon. His name is kind of floating around.
Wow.
For me, I'm going to go with the New York Knicks to be the guy off the bench. The Knicks have been having some ties with Malcolm Brogdon, and that just feels like a good fit for them. To replace actually Emmanuel Quickley's. He's going to be the new Emmanuel Quickley for them. James, you agree here?
Yep, that was gonna be my team for Malcolm Brogdon. You know he don't want to be in Portland anymore. It's unfortunate Robert Williams, the third, can't get out of there, but
Yeah,
because of his injuries.
there's some trade talks with him that the Trailblazers are actually open to trading him. But I don't know. I mean, if he's not healthy, then he has no value. So
Yeah, I agree with you
Isaiah,
again on that.
okay, Isaiah, what do you think?
On who? Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
He's on what, the Blazers right now, right?
Hmm.
I think he goes. Who do I think he goes? I think he goes to. I think he goes to Golden State, actually. They need another scorer off the bench because Clay has been very inconsistent this year. Kaminga's been unhappy. Moody's been unhappy. Draymond, he's throwing punches left and right, acting like a UFC fighter out there. Chris Paul is hurt, I think, for like the next couple months. So they definitely need a spark off the bench. So I'm gonna go with the Warriors. I think he gets traded there.
All right, next guy is Isaiah, another old friend of yours, Kyle Kuzma, from the Wizards. I'm not sure specifically if they're gonna do this or not, but I don't think the Wizards are going to trade him. I think they're really reluctant to trade him away for assets specifically. I think they'll listen. I think that's what they're going to do for him. So the teams I would watch for Kuzma if he gets moved would be Dallas and Sacramento. Those would be the two teams. I think you go out west if you got traded. But I'll go to Isaiah. You first on your old friend Kyle Kuzma. Does he stay or go?
Oh man, it's tough because him and Jordan Poole running that Wizards team. It's like the team of memes. I mean, it's definitely entertaining to watch. Like all the funny stuff that they do, all the terrible, terrible shots that they take.
Funny enough, I would love him and Jordan Poole to play with each other one more time because they're actually playing the Celtics. I think the couple days after the trade deadline is, so I'm just crossing my fingers that they stay. I'm just crossing my fingers.
Yeah, I want to see him and Jordan Poole keep playing with each other. But I think he stays. But if he goes, and James might laugh at my take on this.
Oh boy,
I think the Clippers are a suitor. They definitely need help off the bench. I know they have Norman Powell. I know they.
The hell did you just say?
I think he's a suitor. I think the Clippers are a suitor because
hell no.
You guys need size. You need some size with forwards off the bench, and he'll add some value to your bench. That's what he is. He's a great scorer off the bench. He'll be like a Lou Williams type of guy.
We have Norman Powell for that already. We're
but
good,
you also,
bro. We're
yeah,
good.
I know. You could have, but in a 7-game series, you're gonna need all the offense you can get.
Yeah, but him in LA again? Would you imagine? No, I don't want him anywhere near that.
Him and Westbrook off the bench.
Hell, but no. I just don't want Kuzma anywhere near my team. It feels like we're going
Lakers to the Clippers.
Yeah,
it's all the scraps from like the Yankees with the Mets. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you already have Harden there, and he's working out. You don't want to mess up the cohesion that is already there with another egotistical idiot. And just I just don't think he'd be good in that LA setting again because he's been there before. It pretty much is. I don't know. People are people, so if it ruins his life, so be it. If not, that's just his style. But for me, Ben, really quick, I don't see him going anywhere unless it's the Mavericks. Maybe they could use more bench scoring because with the trades that they made, that's kind of been lesser with their bench. So I can see Dallas, if anything.
Okay. The next guy is Bruce Brown Bruce Brown, of course, was in the trade with the Raptors and the Pacers. Obviously, the Raptors aren't going to keep him around because he deserves better. It's like the Lowry stuff. Just taking on a contract. I think that he goes, and I think he goes to Philly. I think he's going to be off the bench for them. He can obviously bring some scoring. He can bring some defense. Just like the fit there. So I have DeJounte Murray in their starting role, and then I have Bruce Brown off their bench. So it obviously kind of helps strengthen for sure their team. James, I'll go to you.
Yeah, Philadelphia. I could see him have that toughness and that grit. I think he would fit in really well off of their bench. But I also have a vision where I can see him going back to the Western Conference, kind of being that villain toward the Denver Nuggets. Like maybe the Thunder try to look for some veteran presence and defensive presence. So it's either the Sixers or the Thunder for me.
All right. What about you, Isaiah?
I like Philly. I think he goes, and I think Philly is a good spot. New York is a good spot. I feel like for Bruce Brown. It's tough. Yeah, I would say New York and Philly probably are the spots. Milwaukee maybe off the bench. They need some scoring help off that bench. Maybe he can go there and help them. I know Denver would like to get him, but I don't think Denver can get him because of the contract, right? Is that true?
I don't. In terms of the contract for who?
For Bruce Brown?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think like the Lowry stuff, they're gonna have to try to find a suitor for his contract specifically. I don't know his contract on my head specifically though.
Okay, so yeah, I'll go with New York. I'll say he goes, and I think he goes to the Knicks.
Okay. All right. So we got two more here, and then you guys obviously can actually choose one more other player that I did not mention from the list, and maybe either it's for fit for you guys for your teams, or just for essentially one that you guys want to mention. That's just fine. Grayson Allen. That's the next one. He's been floated around. I think that he stays because the Suns have been playing a lot better. And I think that he could bring some stuff in their starting role off the bench. But if he does go, watch out for the Bucks reunion. I think that the Bucks, yeah, I think that I feel it's just a reunion type of spot for him. So, how about you, Isaiah? Grayson Allen, if he does move, I don't think he's going to leave, but there was reports a couple days ago that he might be gone.
I think he stays. He's been a very integral part of Phoenix this season with his shooting and also with his defense and with his grittiness. So I think he stays.
James,
I agree with you. Unless he goes somewhere, I think he's going to stay. And what's been amazing, he's worked with Lethal Shooter, that man on Instagram and all that, where he teaches people how to be great 3-point shooters, and he's just another great student. And he's been awesome this year, like he was with Milwaukee before. And yeah, I can see a reunion scenario in Milwaukee. If the Suns feel like they need a true point guard, to alleviate Booker's happening. Maybe they'll go out and make that deal, but I think the Suns should keep him around because he could add that veteran defensive presence.
All right, the last guy I have on the list is Alex Kruse from the Bulls. I think that he goes, and I think that he's going to be a piece to the Boston Celtics off the bench.
Wow.
I think that we could present some like a 3-and-D type of guy off the bench, bring some defense, can knock down some shots. And I think that Brad is going to try to find a piece, I think, that he can obviously give you like 10, 15 minutes a game off the bench. Because really our starting five, I think, is pretty much set. And just to finish out the completed roster. And I think he could obviously be a starting role for guys that might need a time off or got hurt. because we've had some injuries here and there, some guys that, been out of game here today, like Porzingis or Derek White. He'd be a perfect guy to have just as a bench depth piece. So I think Kruse goes, and I think that we get him in Boston. So how about you, James?
Man, that would be something. You know what? If the Bucks don't get Grayson Allen back, maybe Caruso goes to Milwaukee. It just would depend how much.
I hate it for us.
It just depends how much Chicago would ask back. But you could say in the scenario, I know the Bucks already gave up a lot in that Lillard trade. Speaking of the future, but if they could do what the Lakers did and give up some more from the future, speaking about draft picks, yeah, I could see maybe Milwaukee in that trade. It's just weird because they're divisional foes. But the thing is, Milwaukee's going for something Chicago isn't. So this would be that rare time where it'd be like, okay, even though you're in the same division, we're both looking at different goals in mind.
Absolutely. Isaiah, what do you think?
I think he goes. I think the Bulls are going to sell at the deadline. And I think that he goes to. I got an interesting spot. The Orlando Magic, I think, end up getting him. They're on the cusp of making the playoffs. I think they're the 8th seed right now. Their wings are very good offensively. Defensively, not really that good. And he gives you that playoff experience. So I think the Magic are going to make a run towards the playoffs, try to make a run towards the playoffs, and Caruso will definitely help out a lot.
All right, before we get to our final thoughts, is there any other players on the list that I did not mention that you guys want to float out? So I'll go to you, Isaiah, first.
I got 2 on this list, and I think both of these guys are going to get traded. Number 1 on this list, and you guys can feel free to give your opinions if they're going to stay or go or not. Number 1 is Colin Sexton of the Utah Jazz. He's been playing great basketball the last month. I think he's averaged like 25 points a game. He's balling right now. He's got a pretty good contract, 4 years, $70 million. But the problem is the Jazz have his successor lined up on the bench, and it just seems like he needs to go because he's not part of their future. And for me, I got him going. And I got him going to the Lakers. The Lakers could use some bench help or depth off the bench. They need a score off the bench. I think they trade Jalen Hood-Schifino. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino will actually be part of the Sexton package. And then I think they probably deal him and Gabe Vincent's contract to the Utah Jazz in return because I just don't think the Jazz will get a lot for Sexton since he's kind of like that player where he's like D'Angelo Russell. When he's on, he's on. But when he's off, like, look out. So I got Sexton going to the Lakers. And then the second player I have, and this is part of the and I think this team is going to shockingly just sell at the deadline because they're going absolutely nowhere, is Klay Thompson. I think he's going to be gone at the deadline. The Warriors are 19-22. I looked at their upcoming schedule. It is rough. They just won tonight. If you look at their upcoming schedule, they got the Kings tomorrow night in San Francisco. They got the Lakers on Saturday. They got the Sixers after that. They got the Grizzlies. They got the Hawks. They got the Nets. They got the Sixers, Pacers, Suns, Jazz, Clippers, and Lakers to finish it out. It's tough. Yeah. And they're 19-22 right now. They've shown no signs of really coming out from that spurt. I mean, they're always inconsistent. They're losing to bad teams. I mean, guys, they lost to a Grizzlies team that was missing Desmond Bane, John Morant, and also I believe they were missing Jeremy Jackson. Yeah, and Marcus Smart. They were missing 4 of those guys of the Grizzlies' top 4 players, and they still lost. Like, how is that even possible? I just think Golden State, you got to sell now. Like, Klay Thompson's a free agent after the season. Got to get something back from him. You're going nowhere. And Shab Sharani, And I think Shams even said that everybody on the Warriors minus Curry is available. So I could see Golden State being that team that's just like, yeah, if we don't play well the next week, we're going all in on selling at the deadline. So Klay Thompson will go, fellas. And here is where
boy.
he will go to. He's not going to go to the Lakers as much as I want him to go to the Lakers.
No, everybody can go to the Lakers.
That is true. And everybody can't go to the Lakers. Klay Thompson will go to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
No.
They won't know because they have how
what?
many first-round picks? They will trade because they're right now number 1 in the Western Conference. They have SGA. They could definitely use Klay Thompson and his sharpshooting with OKC and his defense as well. They could use him to pair with SGA.
Giddy?
Yeah, they have Giddey, but isn't Giddey more of a small forward?
I mean, like their starting five right now is I think Williams. They got
Yep.
SGA. They got Giddy. They got Holmgren.
Yep.
And then I'm trying to remember the other piece. I don't know. I like that starting five that they've had. I feel it's like a bend over break type of thing. I think it'd be a good piece there. I
Well,
don't know.
Williams is the power
like-
forward right now, and also,
Okay.
Williams is the power forward. Chet is, I think, playing center. I think he should be more of a power forward, and then I think they have Lou Dort also
Lou
as
Dort. Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
he's the small forward. But what I would do if you're the Thunder is I would because I think Clay's better than Dort offensively. Even though Dort's
Okay.
really good defensively, I would put Clay at this stage of his career as a small forward. So you have Giddey, SGA, and Clay with Jalen Williams as the power forward. And then you could do Chet at center, and then that way you could have Clay be the sharpshooter also with SGA. Because if they double SGA and they, Giddey with his playmaking abilities, Clay would have a lot of open looks there at OKC, and with
Okay.
him and Dort defensively to close, I mean, that is one hell of a lineup. And I don't think you would even give that much for Clay. You'd probably just give up a first-round pick, and that's it because he's on an expiring contract. And the Thunder have, 10 first-round picks the next, 3-4 years?
Yeah,
you
they
guys
would
can
have a
chime
lot.
in if
So,
yeah, but you guys can chime in if you guys will stay or go. Or not.
okay. So I think that Sexton goes. And for me, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. Got the bench, ball handler. I think you add some valid scoring to them for sure. Kind of like you guys remember George Hill. He's kind of like a George Hill type of feel with them. Grayson Allen type of feel with them off the bench. Could be in the starting role if needed. Klay Thompson, I think, stays. I think that he's gone after the season. But hear me out on this one, guys. And I would hate it as a Celtics fan. But if Klay Thompson goes, I would not be shocked if the Miami Heat put an offer for him. Because they have Terry Rozier, who they just bought in as a ball handler. They love to shoot threes. The Heat love to shoot threes. They can maybe unload guys like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. They already obviously moved on from Strus and Vincent last year. I think that, the thing about Miami is they need stars, right? If they really want to compete with teams like Boston and, Milwaukee, it's you can get through Spurs for so long, but you're going to have some culture guys for sure. And the thing about Klay Thompson, he's a culture guy outside of his actual playmaking ability. So I could see Miami. But yeah, I just don't see him leaving specifically this offseason. I mean, this trade deadline. I think he's going to wait.
But before James goes, and Ben, before you go for your final two, do you guys think because Golden State's in a spot where I don't think anybody expected them to be in, and everybody's available in Italy. Do you guys think Golden State will sell it?
I don't think so because there's some teams in the play-in right now that's just okay, you have look at the Phoenix Suns. They were in the play-in I think a couple weeks ago. They have essentially knocked themselves back now into the 5-6 seed. There's some teams in the play-in there you're okay, that there's some stars that could try to take you, right to try to get in that top 10. And I feel like Golden State could be, especially a Draymond back, you get some flexibility there, maybe get a guy off the bench. And then you kind of start looking at the offseason. I think if there's any guy off from Golden State that they move is Kuminga. I think that Kuminga probably wants to go somewhere where it gives a more bigger opportunity for sure. So I think they don't unload the bigger pieces until after the season. James.
Me. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so I was looking up some stuff, and I think if no one trades for Kyrie Lowry, maybe
that's right, Lowry, yeah.
they have a reunion in Chicago. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. Look out for that.
Okay.
I know it won't lead to anything, but maybe they want to play together again, where there really isn't any pressure or anything. So I can definitely see those two being teammates again. Man, I don't think okay, PJ Tucker. This guy's just sitting on the end of the bench for the Clippers, and he hasn't played a game in like a month or two. He's just there because his boy Harden is there, basically. Maybe, maybe the Knicks might go after him. If he wants to leave his best friend and go be a professional and play in some games. Maybe PJ Tucker would do that. And look out for Matisse Thybulle. He is with the Portland Trailblazers for now. Anybody would want his young defensive presence. So maybe a team like I think the Bucks have that with Beauchamp already. So maybe not Milwaukee, but maybe a reunion in Philadelphia or maybe in New York. He's one name in Portland I was trying to think of, along with Brogdon, that really needs to get out of there. So look out for those names.
You got some more comments here from Seth, which has been bored. Does Steph Curry request a trade? Nope, I don't see that. James, thoughts on the Angels' interest in Joey Votto?
No. Well, wait, who are you, Seth?
Way to get into the baseball topic. Way to get into baseball topic. Seth.
We will
on Instagram.
And our final thoughts, we will have a quick. If you guys want to talk with me baseball, because I do want to say really something. My final thoughts baseball related, but
please,
yes,
baseball gods, make that happen, please.
And then he also said, "Is Boyan Bogdan?" Okay, this is a really good one that we did not mention. I think that he goes.
Yeah.
Man. It's a really, really good one. A team that really needs shooting.
Sacramento.
Indiana. Indiana. Yep. Yeah, Indiana. I think you go there. I really like that fit a lot.
I don't know.
I'd probably know more, but I'm just so tired this morning.
He's got a big contract, so I don't know if Detroit would move, and they probably would ask for a big haul for him anyways. For me, I got him staying. I don't think he goes anywhere.
All right. So without further ado, guys, that concludes our NBA segment. And without further ado, now we get to our final thoughts. And before I get into my final thoughts, I'd just like to say really quickly in baseball, congratulations to Joe Mauer, Adrian Beltre, and Todd Helton for getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Well-deserved congratulations. I hope Manny Ramirez gets in pretty soon because he was on the ballot this year. Dustin Pedroia will be in it next year. Ichiro, CC Sabathia, Adam Jones. So it's a pretty good ballot next year too. But congratulations to those guys. I really wanted to make sure I gave them a quick shout out before the show was over. And then just baseball itself. I mean, I can just play it safe for now that there's still not a lot going on. We have Josh Hader. He wants the Astros. Your boy Isaiah Reese Hoskins just going to the Brewers for a 2-year deal. Congratulations to Reese. I think it's a good fit there. Low-key, interesting move. James, you guys have been loving some bullpen this offseason. All right. I see you guys getting Robert Stevenson. And Matt Moore, which I obviously sent you off the air last night.
That.
So you guys have been loving some bullpen for sure, which you can't hit for sure. And the Red Sox are just doing absolutely nothing, but just pissing us off. So that's us right now. I think we're in a bidding war with the Angels for Adam Duvall
Yikes.
for Tensa Reunion. But winter weekend at for the Red Sox. I'm so glad. I wanted to go so bad, but then just seeing just no ownership. The owner wasn't even there because he was just gonna get roasted by fans, just booing left and right like last year. Man, it's just an absolute nightmare, to say the least. And I'll talk more in a rant or something, somewhere else. But I just can't now. It's just too late. But yeah, congratulations to those three guys that got into the Hall of Fame. Well deserved, and great show, guys, for tonight. Looking forward to the games this weekend for football, basketball, obviously. Just can't wait for the remainder of the season leading up to the trade deadline because there's going to be obviously a lot of fun for that. Hockey, I know we don't talk hockey much here, but obviously, your Sharks, Isaiah, I see it. I see you guys coming back from the Rangers last night. The Bruins obviously had a tough one tonight, but yeah, hopefully I can talk hockey with Taylor pretty soon. I know he's probably been jumping at the bit about that, but great show, guys. We'll try to get another one probably at the end of the weekend, probably recapping Championship Sunday, and we'll talk next week in terms of Super Bowl. Crazy enough that almost that Super Bowl Sunday. We'll try to get a show in though, really quick to talk about the championship, and then I'll probably have like kind of a 2 episode about the Super Bowl because I know we have that full week without anything, but there'll probably be a lot of news about coaches too, a lot of the offseason stuff for some other teams, so we'll probably talk about that as well too. So I'm all set, for the night. I'll leave it to you guys. Great show, guys, and look forward to our next one. So James, I'll go to you.
Man, I'm really not looking forward to the Angel season coming up. The
Votto thing was true, by the way.
I know. I just saw that now. He's 40 years of age, first time a free agent. If anything, he would be entertaining for the social media people. But man, it will be a chore getting to the bullpen this year. That's what I feel like with the Angels. I mean, the starters aren't good. I was hoping they would have traded for some, good pitchers, but they haven't yet. And I don't know. I'm just looking forward to the championship round in the NFL, Super Bowl, and then before you know it, pitchers and catchers will be reporting, and hopefully we'll have some free agent signings, the big ones left to talk about. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, not a problem, as always. Isaiah, final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts is what a great show it was. Shout out to the Sharks. I mean, that was one of the most intense hockey games I've ever watched. This just shows you how I don't have a good knowledge of hockey. I was watching the game, right? And it was so intense. And I remember, I was watching the game on my TV, and one of the Rangers guys just illegally hit one of the Sharks guys, and I was out here screaming like, "Throw the flag, ref! What are you doing? Flag that guy, man!" And I quickly was like, "Oh crap! They don't throw flags here." And then there was another point where
yikes, Isaiah, yikes.
There was another hit where I was like, "Pull out the red card! Send this dude to the penalty box or something." But it was an intense game. It was a fun game. Sharks were down 2-0, showing no signs of life. And then they scored 3 goals in a row to win it late. So what a game that was. Maybe that will help spur the Sharks maybe to a playoff run maybe this season. Who knows? I don't know the standings. Sharks probably are really bad. I don't know.
Isaiah, you're thinking the standings. The Sharks are in the last place in the Pacific. They're third.
All right, never mind.
So you probably won't want to talk about that again.
Yeah, that was but great show.
Good for them though.
Yeah, looking forward to the NFC Championship as well as the AFC Championship. Should be very exciting. I'm trying to see where to even watch the game this upcoming weekend, depending if I go on my trip or not. But should be definitely a fun game for sure. Looking forward to seeing what Brock Purdy does. in that game. And maybe we'll get a rematch of that Niners-Chiefs Super Bowl because I really want to see the Kansas City Chiefs again and, get revenge for that Super Bowl. In terms of baseball, the only thing – my A's aren't really doing anything. I know James was complaining about potentially getting Votto and Matt Moore. I mean, my A's big signing is Miguel Andujar. I mean, we literally signed him to a 1-year, $5 million contract. And and there's reports that there's been constant reports for some reason that we might go get Domingo Germán. Okay. It's like we're getting the Yankees like scraps. That's what we're doing. It's just not fun. But and even the Phillies aren't even doing anything for some reason, and they just lost Rhys Hoskins to the Brewers. So congratulations to Rhys on that deal. But it should be exciting because we got the championship weekend this week. Then that 1 week where we don't really have anything, well, guess what? We do have something. We have the NBA trade deadline on February 8th. That week, that Thursday, right before the Super Bowl, and then we have the Super Bowl after that. So definitely going to be a fun week. Can't wait to see all these trades happen and see what goes down. And like James and you, Ben, you guys mentioned, I just hope that the big guys start signing because we're about what, couple weeks before pitchers and catchers report. I mean, we got
it's on Valentine's Day. Who needs Valentine's Day when you have pitchers and catchers reported? That's the love already to me already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we got the Super Bowl, we got the NBA trade deadline, we got the championship games this weekend. Then we got the trade deadline next week. Then we got, Super Bowl, and then we got baseball season upon us. So
yep.
I think next week we'll probably get a lot more signings because, the players need to know where they're going and where they're reporting in Florida or Arizona. So hopefully we get signings by then.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about it to that point in time. But for now, Isaiah, really quickly, hopefully we'll get an extra point probably pretty soon, maybe during the week. So obviously tune in for that specifically. Batter Up will probably be coming up pretty soon. I did want to mention on my other show that I don't know if I told James this or you this, but I did get appointed becoming the new co-host for our baseball show. So I'm excited for that. I'm fortunate enough going to be getting a little bit of revenue as well on top, which I found out about that. So I'm really, really excited about that. So if anybody of you guys are joining on this one, make sure to like and comment and subscribe, not only on MI6 here, but also on the Empty the Bench podcast network. We'll be doing our show tomorrow for our football lines, which will be recorded on Friday, which we've been doing throughout the season. So make sure to join in on that tomorrow night. Pretty much outside of that, guys, like I said, make sure to follow, likes, comments, and subscribe for anybody that liked our stuff for tonight. I know that Seth was joining us tonight, which we do appreciate all your comments, Seth, on that. So that's pretty much it, though. So I'm going to now go to the outro. James, thank you for coming on, obviously joining us. Isaiah, thanks, as always, for joining us. And without further ado, guys, have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you guys next time.
Oh, my God. Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it up to the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown. And a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything's possible!